Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of art, it's the Tenet Podcast. I'm Todd Pearson, coming to you from the 40 West Arts District here in Lakewood, Colorado. And joining me from the Road of Enchantment in Rapid City, South Dakota, my partner and friend. You know him as quite possibly the most interesting man in the world, my buddy, Wes Brown.
Hey, Todd, how you doing, my friend? Oh, my God, it's another week. I can't wait.
Another week?
It's hard to believe that we've been doing this every week. It's like old times.
It's been really, really nice to be in the groove. I feel like we're in the groove. We're hitting our groove, right? For 2023. Yeah. We had some great interviews and I'm excited.
I'm excited about tonight because I was told, let the Spirit carry me. Just follow the Spirit. So I'm getting in touch with my internal spirit, and we're just going to go with it. It's going to be pretty Zen-like. We're going to calm down a little bit. We're going to breathe. We're going to let the Spirit come out.
And then we're going to do some breathing exercises?
We could. I should do some vocal exercises because I'm sure most people you should use your voice better. Anyway, I'm excited, Todd. This is going to be a great discussion. I'm looking forward to it. So what's new with you, my friend?
You know what? Today is my 23rd wedding anniversary.
Wow.
And you're spending it with us.
And I'm spending it with you and our guests this week. And we went out and celebrated last night. We went and had dinner. She's actually probably
planning your death.
Still, planning my death.
I was just going to say, please apologize to your wife for us. I mean,
my wife is very supportive and understanding, and we had a lovely dinner out last night. We went to this really nice Italian restaurant that we hadn't experienced before.
Can you talk about it? Where'd you go?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
It's called the Odyssey, and it's down on 6th Avenue. I don't know what this cross street is.
This podcast is brought to you by the Odyssey.
They did do it up right. Like there was rose petals. She had put in on when she made the reservation, they had rose petals all over the table, and we got a complimentary glass of Prosecco and then a little limoncello at the end of the dinner. And it was superb. I'd go back there in a heartbeat.
Nice. That sounds romantic.
That sounds very romantic.
Next time in Denver, maybe you and I should go, Todd. We can have a nice romantic rose petals and
Okay.
Have a little
bromance on our Tenet podcast anniversary or something.
Yes.
It would be nice.
Maybe for the 200th episode or 150th, maybe.
There we go. Maybe we could do it live from the Odyssey.
So you know that well, first of all, I usually don't post very much personal stuff on my social media, but today I did. I posted a picture that we had the waiter shoot of us last night. But then like 30 minutes later, you know that you know how Dan Drossman is. He's always like inserting himself. He does like this terrible Photoshop stuff, and he'll like insert himself into photographs. So it's a picture of me and my wife holding hands at the table. And I get a text from him, and there's Dan with his hands on top of ours, really poorly, jankily put himself into the photograph between the two of us. It was beautiful.
That's awesome. That's the beauty of his Photoshop, is like it's so blatantly horrible and that it's absolutely funny. It's absolutely hilarious.
But it's actually good in some ways. Yeah. And I don't know if you saw the pictures from his opening this past weekend. Did you? Yeah. He was thinking about doing a whole series, like a whole exhibit of him with these photos. I think it's so hilarious.
Yeah.
He's such a goofball. I love that.
He is a goofball. Just like us.
Just like us. All right. You ready to talk some art?
Let's talk some art, Todd.
All right, let's get to it. Thank you for joining us. Remember, you can always find out what we're up to via our social media on Instagram at Tenet Podcast and our Tenet Podcast Facebook page. And then, of course, our website, tenetpodcast.com. Our guest this week, who you've already heard her lovely voice a couple times, blew us away with her vibrant, exquisite paintings at this year's Coors Western Art Exhibit and Sale, where she was awarded the Artist Choice Award by her peers for for the paintings that I just mentioned. You can follow her on Instagram at Adrienne Stein and check out her stunning work on her website, adriennestein.com. Adrienne, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. I feel like I'm just getting invited into like your inner circle of you and Wes having a beer together every week. Like this is just your standing date, and I get to tag along.
Oh, we love when you tag along. Yeah, we when we're tagged along to people that in their cars and in their studios, we love the journeys along with you. So if we can entertain and bring you some great interviews from some wonderful artists, we're all about that. So I'm glad.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. Appreciate that.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, of course.
We love your work, and congratulations on the award. That's amazing.
Thank you. It was a wonderful surprise. I have to say, I was stunned and humbled and blown away and all of those emotions. But yeah, it was wonderful, especially coming from my fellow artists. It was just a really high quality show, and so many artists that I deeply admire in the show. And so to receive the Artist Choice Award meant the world to me. And also because this was my first year being a part of the show, for my maiden voyage. That was quite a surprise. And, Rose was so wonderful to take a chance on me because the work that I did for the core show was a little bit different than what I normally do. So they were a little bit experimental for me. And I was just so grateful that she was willing to give me a spot there.
So I want to just like kick right off the bucket on this. That's even horrible to say. I just want to kick. I want to bring focus to that. Let me just say it this way. I want to bring focus to that, right? Because that wasn't your normal style. So did you get invited prior to? Obviously, you got invited prior to these pieces being made, and then what made you go this direction?
Well, oddly enough, I was invited when these pieces were just in their infancy. What happened was in 2020, I distinctly remember the pieces that I have in the core show. I did little watercolor studies for each one of them before I made them, because I was just dreaming of making these paintings, and they were so strange for me. And I thought, I can't just get started and make these paintings, and they're pretty big. So I want to like really think them through and give them a lot of love and attention before I even put the first brushstroke on canvas. I'm going to do these little watercolor studies. And so I had done these watercolor studies, and how like when you make something, you guys are photographers, so the feeling, when you've done something and it almost just kind of vibrates with an energy that's different from everything else that you've ever done, and it just kind of hangs on your studio wall and just changes the entire atmosphere around it, and it kind of feels like that. And so I had done these little watercolor studies, and they're not very big, but something about them was like really calling to me. Just doing these studies made me feel like, yeah, this is exactly what I was going for. And I kind of worked out the ideas. And then, so this was February and early March of 2020 when I was doing those studies. And then, as we all know, what happened to the world in March of 2020. And so as I was watching headlines come in about, Kwong and I were in Denver at the time. We split our time between York, Pennsylvania and Denver, Colorado. And we were in Denver and hearing the news come in about, restaurants shutting down and all public spaces were shutting down and shows were being canceled left and right. And within a week's time, all of our deadlines coming up for all the shows we had committed to were all just canceled. It was just Control Alt Delete on life as we knew it. And so I said to myself, all the commitments that I have, I'm doing these paintings for all these shows, and I have to do a certain thing or a certain theme, or people are expecting what I normally do. And I said, everything's gone now. So I might as well use this time to do something weird. And these paintings to me were kind of strange. And I thought, nobody's going to want to buy skulls floating. Nobody is going to be interested in like a giant set of caribou antlers floating in front of a sunset. It's just going to be too weird for the collector base that I know I have. So I thought, why not just make these in the silence of my own studio, and they may never see the light of day, but I just have to make them. So I started painting them during COVID, and then I got distracted and onto other things and working on other projects, and I had portrait commissions and things like that. So I was kind of doing other things, but I had these paintings underway, and then 2021 happened, and we ended up having our son, and then becoming a parent was a whole thing. And Rose, I had these paintings started in my studio, and Kwang said to me, my husband, Kwang Ho, who, for those of you listening who may not know, I'm married to a fellow artist and, incredible artist. And I said, I was showing them to him, and I said, I just don't know how I feel about them. They're different than everything I've ever done. And he said, these are really good. You need to show these to Rose. And I said, I'm not going to show these to Rose. I said, I don't feel right about just approaching Rose, with these works. They might be a little weird for her. I don't really know. And plus at the time, I didn't feel like they were that Western. They were just, I love bones and especially skulls. And I collect them on our hikes, like in the woods in Colorado and also here in Pennsylvania where we live. So I just have this big skull collection and antlers. And, I just thought, well, I wasn't going to do anything. And then Kwang actually kind of surreptitiously sent a photo of it to Rose in a group email with she and I. And he said, Rose, I just want you to see these. And so she was intrigued and interested. And she said, I want to see them when they're a little further along. So I worked on them a little more. And so 2022, came along, and she said, would you be interested in participating in the core show this year with those paintings? So I was very honored that she invited me. And to make a long story short, they were just paintings that I've been working on in stolen moments since 2020. I had done the studies of them in 2020, and it just really took me a while till I really had enough time to really complete them and then debut them at the core show.
That's so funny, because that is so, well, I shouldn't say, the few times we've interviewed Rose, she's kind of mentioned that, like, sometimes she'll go to a studio for a studio visit, and there'll be something tucked in the corner that like intrigues her, that's totally different than what she's been seeing, and that's what she gravitates towards. So yes, to hear that story is just amazing. It's the same thing. It's just that Kwang kind of, shoved it a little, in front of her a little bit,
Yeah, that's right. And I wouldn't have had the guts to approach her myself. And that seems a little forward to me, but and again, yeah, that's right. I think sometimes these little side projects that artists are doing for fun, it's like you as an artist, you feel like you have your real work, which is the work that people know you for, that people might be able to predict and see it coming. And then you have your things that you're tinkering on, things that maybe you don't show people. I always keep a piece or two that I'm working on that I just don't show anybody while I'm working on it. And I think there's something about that, keeping certain work close to the vest and keeping it secretive. And it kind of gives you the license to feel like you can change it anytime, or, do something crazy to it, or, there's no one there to say, oh, hey, that part was so good, or I like that, or, oh, why'd you change that? Or what, or if it's strange for you, you don't have to worry about the peanut gallery. You don't have to post it on Facebook. You don't have to show Instagram that painting. You just sort of quietly work on it. And, I do use social media. I do use Facebook and Instagram, and, I participate in those things, but I actually kind of have a relatively minimal presence. I don't post as much as a lot of my peers, because the truth is, I just don't really enjoy showing works in progress that much, because I feel like there is a magic there. Like, the relationship that I have with my work does feel pretty private, and it feels kind of intimate. And when I'm working on something, sometimes it's just like I need to grind through that problem on my own and just like kind of give it space and give it privacy to become what it wants to become.
So my follow-up question is going back to what you presented at the course. Do you plan on doing more of these in that kind of same style?
Yeah, I do. Do you guys know of the painter Hilma af Klint?
Yes.
Klint, Hilma af Klint. So she was, for those who may not know, she was a pioneering abstract expressionist, Swiss. She was a spiritualist at the turn of the century and up until like the 1920s and 30s. And she was she was like creating these incredible abstract paintings based on her spiritual visions. Like she would hold seances, and she was all into theosophy and spiritualism and kind of that whole time period of like channeling spirits and connecting with the spirits of the dead and all that kind of stuff that was happening at that time. Yeah, along with Agnes Pelton, I would say she's another one that I started to get really excited about in the last couple of years. Both of them female abstract expressionists, and Agnes Pelton had more association with the West because she was a German immigrant, but she spent a lot more time in New Mexico and very inspired by the West. But they were both artists who claimed that their imagery came from spiritual sources. And they also were working in this completely intuitive manner, and they were inspired by nature. They lived among nature. The natural world was really important to them. And at the time, cell biology and all this knowledge about the microscopic world was coming to light. So they were intrigued by that, because a lot of their work really looks like what you would see under a microscope. Like there's sacred geometry and the exploration of the light spectrum and color and shape and symmetry. And it really, those two artists, I'd say, like really inspired me a lot in the last couple of years. And I'm an image maker. I mean, I'm an imagistic painter. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, I really work in the tradition. In my life as an artist, I've really pretty much stuck to portraits, figures, landscapes, and still lifes, And so I thought, wow, I'm not an abstract painter and I can't see myself making something abstract, but I became kind of obsessed with making a painting that transcends genre. So how do you make a painting that is neither a landscape nor really a still life? And it's also not really a figure, although you could see the skull as a stand-in for the figure maybe, or there's like a figure that's hinted at. But, there's kind of like this spatial element, but it's not a landscape per se. And so I became really fascinated with this idea of just creating something visual that was like a meditation on form, and forms that I love. So like flowers and skulls and foliage, and even like Colorado wildflowers that I was starting to learn about a little bit as I was spending more time in Colorado, because I'm from Pennsylvania. So the West is relatively new to me. So yeah, I mean, it was all of those things kind of coalescing and just being curious about it and exploring it through these paintings.
They're amazing. And the one painting, I hope Todd will bring it up, is Arc. Was, and when I walked into the gallery, of course, when you walk in, you take that left, the thing at the very end is Arc. And this is absolutely gorgeous. And I seen it on, Instagram and the Coors site, because we had talked about you with Rose, but seeing it in person, the colors are so vivid.
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh my God. I was just blown away. And this is, I'm really curious about this comparison. So, when I first saw them, I thought of Georgia O'Keeffe.
Yes.
So what's your thoughts? I mean, that's kind of, obviously it's Western, it's bones, it's prairie. I mean, it's the West. You're going to have that. I mean, if you've looked at any of Georgia O'Keeffe's later stuff, you're going to have that. So what's your feeling about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very influenced by Georgia O'Keeffe. And I should have mentioned her too, of course. Kwong took me to Ghost Ranch. We went on a little road trip back when we were dating. We went on this road trip to New Mexico and went to Ghost Ranch, and seeing the landscape there and the forms that are specific to that place, and the skies, dramatic skies. And I mean, it was really influential. And you start to see how Georgia O'Keeffe's style was formed by the West, and the kind of billowing forms of the West. And she had done a painting of a deer skull, I believe, that was floating against a blue sky. And I loved it. I absolutely loved that. And I thought, oh, wow, that would be such an interesting visual idea to explore. But, she really stylized everything that she painted, and everything was really distinctly hers. And I think for me, I wanted to explore it more, with a little bit more heightened realism, but also like really exploring like the colors of the West, and like using those hollyhocks, for example, I've tried to plant hollyhocks in Pennsylvania. I can't get them to grow. They just don't really like it here.
Right.
But out west, it's like the hollyhocks are just unbelievable, especially in the Southwest in New Mexico. And the variety of colors of hollyhocks are just awesome. And so I was really inspired by those forms and those colors. And, and the thunderhead is like where Kwong and I live, we have a view of, we can see the Rockies, and it was like just being able to see these incredible cloud formations. I mean, I was like sitting out there with my iPhone every evening, just every couple of minutes, snapping photos, because there's just dramatic cloudscapes everywhere you look. So I kind of wanted to combine this idea of like the natural landscape, the things that grow out of the landscape, the relics of animals that have lived in the landscape. And I was telling Rose that my premise was kind of like, if I were building a temple to nature, what would the murals inside of it look like? What would the paintings on the walls look like? Or if I were designing stained glass windows, what would the imagery be? And it would, it is basically that celebration of forms, but also life and death, also the hard and the soft, like bone and petals and a diaphanous cloud. And I just love juxtaposing all those things and kind of celebrating forms in that way.
I love the fact that we talked to artists about their art, because the way you just described that, I didn't have words for it. And you just really explained the heart of this painting for me. My great grandmother used to plant hollyhocks, so there was that kind of connection. I do like Georgia O'Keeffe. The Colorado skies are unmatched. Maybe New Mexico, I don't know. Todd would say New Mexico has great, skies too. But this is a beautiful piece. I totally connect with you, and thank you for that description, because it like nails it. You're awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
To every artist that we've talked to that was involved with the Core Show, because we did a theme for the month of January.
Yeah,
they all talked about your paintings, and they talked about how much color was part of this show and how vibrant everything is. But to a T, hands down, everybody said that your paintings were just absolutely stunning. And I totally agree. It was some of the first work that I experienced, because I actually went to the preview this year.
Oh, wow. Yes.
And
I heard you say that.
Yeah. And when I walked in with, I brought another friend with me, and we were just awestruck. I mean, for lack of a better description, awestruck. It was just amazing. And your painting, I went back to multiple times, like walking through the entire gallery, looking at all the work, coming back to your paintings, viewing them at different distances, because there's so much depth to them.
Thank you so much.
And I kept on thinking about like, what's a good description? And they're just delicious.
Oh, thank you. So
delicious. When you go to like a really nice restaurant, and part of the presentation are like these floral arrangements.
Yes.
And they're so beautiful. And then they say, well, those flowers are edible. And you're like, yes. Oh, but if I could have gone up and plucked one of these flowers off one of these pieces and eaten it, I would have. That's how yummy, how delicious I thought it was.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate that. Thank you. Well, I appreciate it a lot. As you guys know, since you're visual artists as well, you're working away at something, or maybe you're like editing photos, and you're grinding away in the studio, and you kind of have that moment of almost like you're in the void, like you don't know if what you're doing is completely ridiculous or crazy, or if it makes any sense, or if it has any meaning to anyone. But and then you put it out there in the world and you hope for the best. But it just means the world to me. Your words of appreciation mean so much, and yeah, that's so kind of you. Thank you. And I am very conscious of color, and especially Western skies can be so vibrant. And I'm also a very slow artist. I wish that is the one, my one Achilles heel, or one of many as an artist, is that I'm really slow. I'm a really deliberate painter, and I I don't do a whole lot of planning usually beforehand. And so often I'll get myself into halfway through a painting and I'll realize there's a massive compositional issue and I have to paint something out that I've just spent a week working on, and I have to paint it over here and you move things around. And so sometimes it's like that. And, the truth is these paintings did take me a long time. I conceptualized them in 2020, but I've been working away at them for the better part of, I really worked on them mostly over the summer, just this past summer, to finish them by the time the fall came around. But I pretty much have just been picking away at them, but it just means a lot that you appreciate them in that way. Thank you.
Yeah. No, they're amazing. We love them. That's for sure.
I wish I had a video of my friend that was with me and him viewing them, because it was this full on, and I did the same thing, but it was interesting to watch him, take it in, and how he was like, almost running up to them close up and then looking at them. And then he'd, slowly make his way back and kind of take it in from afar, and then kind of a medium distance and then back again,
Yes.
Looking at your brush strokes. And he was mesmerized by it as well as I was. And
wonderful.
They're just stunning. Like,
thank you.
I would give my left arm for one of these pieces. That's how much I enjoyed them.
Love it. Thank you.
I think
so
you should
much.
go for it. I think you should go for it, Adrienne, because I think what you could do is then you could put his left arm in some kind of painting. So,
I know. I was like, well, he's offering only his left arm, which I guess you're right-handed. So, I mean, you drew the line somewhere, right?
That's awesome.
Didn't want it bad enough to give your right arm. But no, that's really kind of you. Thank you. It makes all the hours at the easel so much more worthwhile to hear things like that.
And I will say one more thing, and I'm going to sound like a total fanboy at this point, but
you are.
And I am. But seriously, I like Georgia O'Keeffe's work just fine. But seriously, if I was to choose, if I was given the opportunity, I would choose one of your pieces. Like, I mean, they're just stunning.
And he's
I'm very touched. Thank you so much.
So here's the thing, though. He's not just making this up, because we've had this discussion a couple weeks ago, and he said the exact same thing. Because I was never a huge Georgia O'Keeffe fan until I went to Ghost Ranch, until I spent a little time like delving into her work, and I love her Western stuff. But he said the exact same thing. He said Georgia O'Keeffe stuff is really good, but if I would far pick Adrienne's paintings over Georgia O'Keeffe.
So you can verify. Wow.
I verify. It's 100% verifiable.
He is not blowing smoke.
No,
wow.
He's not. No smoke here.
That's incredible. Thank you, Todd. I'm gonna like fold that up and hide it away in my heart for when I have a dreary day in the studio. I'm just gonna get that one out and remember it. Thank you so much.
Oh man. And I don't like to compare art to, an artist to an artist, but Georgia O'Keeffe was brought up. Your work is completely different in my world compared to hers. And I'll have to explore these other artists that you mentioned that are, abstract artists that you mentioned, and check out their work. And I'll be interested to see if I can see any parallels or that influence at all. You said that this ARC piece, which sold, at the core show, those are caribou antlers?
Yes. So I actually photographed them I photographed caribou antlers. They were so gorgeous. I couldn't believe it. They look like, I don't know, to me, it's funny when I look at certain forms, they just feel a certain way to me. And they kind of reminded me of a rib cage or like lungs, like the symmetry of them. Something about them was really bodily. And I saw them at the New York, the Museum of Natural History in New York. And they were on the head of a taxidermied caribou. And the caribou's head was leaning down like this. And so the rack was like right up in front of you like this. These two giant antlers just right in the foreground up against the glass. And so I was in awe of them. So I photographed them. I mean, they were in a display case. But I never forgot about these caribou antlers. that I have to paint them some way. So that's sort of how I wedged them into this painting. Was I thought, I want them to be. I'm used to painting still life, so you think about an object in context. As I learned to paint still lifes by putting objects on a table and lighting them and painting them. So I thought, well, how would I paint this object not on a table and not sitting in a setting that we're familiar with? How could it maybe be something more surreal?
This again is one of the reasons I love having these conversations, hearing the thought and then hearing your conceptualization of this piece and how you viewed these antlers. And I've never even thought about it before, but it's like all antlers are a little bit different, right? From animal to animal. Just because they're antlers doesn't mean that they have the same shape. And you describing that, as like lungs, that's just beautiful. And now I have even more of an appreciation for this piece.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's fun to get a chance to talk about it. I could blather on about this stuff forever. I love, nerding out with people like you guys. It's so great because you appreciate it. And, as artists yourselves, you know what it's like to see something and make an association and get excited about it.
My association with this, not only just how beautiful it is, but you captured the cloud formation so wonderfully. And, if you've spent time in the Southwest and especially in New Mexico, you've seen these clouds and the colors that you get because, and I think I've talked about this before, but what you get is light that gets reflected from the soil, and the soil it has a reddish color to it down in New Mexico. And that gets reflected back into the clouds, depending on where the sun is, the time of day. And you get these like really just beautiful, beautiful colors that you don't get elsewhere.
Yes. You know what, Todd? And I would add to that as well. Speaking of the colors in the Southwest, I grew up in Pennsylvania. So there's this hazy atmosphere that's just in the air. It's humid air. It's just a completely different climate and elevation. And you don't, it's funny when there's like a kind of a layer of haze between you and anything you're looking at in nature, you're never really seeing its pure color. You're seeing it sort of through this slight veil. But I noticed, so the artist Walt Gonski, do you guys know him? The painter?
No.
Painter lives in Taos. He's been friends with Kwong for a long time. He's been around forever. He might be in his 80s now, but Rose has known him forever. And he's just been in the Western art world forever. And he's got this beautiful, his house and garden in Taos. He's an avid gardener and he paints his garden a lot. And he had these hollyhocks there. And I was just looking at the colors of them. And I was like, we have red hollyhocks in Pennsylvania, but they're not like that. And I was realizing it wasn't the species of hollyhocks. It was like seeing it in that sunlight where the air is so clear and there's no fog or haze or atmosphere between you and what you're looking at. You're just looking at this pure color. And it feels like it's just the visuality in the West is like piercing. It's just a different kind of air and light altogether.
I can really appreciate that. Yeah. Cause back East, especially where you get places with like fog and like you're talking about the thick air, it definitely, it changes the quality of light and it changes the temperature, right? The color temperature.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It's completely, it's cooler light. It's completely different.
The other reason I appreciate this after I found out that what kind of antlers they were is I grew up in Alaska. And so I've seen caribou, I had friends that hunted growing up. And so I've seen caribou antlers up close, but I didn't make that, I didn't have that realization until you talked about it. So now I have even more of an affinity for this piece.
Oh, that's so cool. Where in Alaska did you grow up, Todd?
I grew up in Fairbanks, so interior Alaska, smack dab in the middle of the state.
Wow, what an incredible upbringing! I've been to Alaska twice, but really just in Anchorage mostly, and then in the surrounding areas, and doing little day trips and glacier hikes and things like that. But I'm just amazed by how close you can get to wildlife too in Alaska. I mean, not how close you can legally get, but I mean, I had been to all the national parks out west by the time I went to Alaska as an adult in my 30s. And I mean, you would see like a black bear up on the hill, or you'd see, one elk or something. But in Alaska, I mean, I remember on my first day, I was visiting my friend and we were driving around and we stopped at a stop sign and there was a moose right next to the stop sign. And I just could not believe, I mean, it was right there. And we saw so much wildlife all around everywhere. And it was the closest I had ever been. And they were chance encounters. We weren't even in a national park, but it was just incredible. And I remember being like blown away the first time I saw a moose. I'd seen them on wildlife shows and things, but I was blown away by how big it is. I mean, I know it sounds trite, but it was like a Clydesdale horse with huge antlers. It was just, I couldn't believe it. But Alaska is the wildest place I've ever been. It really just unbelievable. I mean, when did you move to the lower 48?
You even use the correct terminology. Good for you.
Yeah, I know the lingo.
You know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I moved to Colorado right before my senior year of high school. And I had lived there for 11 years.
Wow.
And then went back a couple times after that. It's been a while since I've been up there.
Okay.
But what you described is absolutely on the money. It's like you can watch all the documentaries or see animals in a zoo or whatever you want, but it's not the same as being actually there and seeing the vastness of that state. And then, having these chance encounters with wildlife that, you wouldn't even imagine that,
I know.
you'd think that you'd have to be out and about, like, Denali National Park or something like that, but you can just be driving down the highway and
I know.
There's a couple moose by the side of the road or what have you.
Yeah, I know. It's incredible. Everything that seems so extraordinary to us in the lower 48 is so normal in Alaska. I mean, my friend who lives there that I was visiting, she took me on a glacier hike on Matanuska Glacier. And I was like, well, first of all, I mean, I'm not a very adept, I'm not an athletic person and I'm not experienced, in things like this. So I was like, don't I have to buy gear? Don't I have to, prepare? And she's like, no, here's what you do. You just wear these kind of shoes and you just do this. And, she took me and we went and it was amazing. And then her friend took us up on his little Cessna plane, which I was like, well, don't you have to charter it? And then you sign a waiver and then you do this. And she's like, no, my friend has a plane. We'll just go up. She's like, everybody has a pilot's license here because there's a lot of places that you can only get to by plane. So, everybody, kind of just learns how to fly. And, so I ended up going on a Cessna, which I never thought I would ever do in a million years. But it was like one of the most incredible experiences of my whole life, getting to, see glaciers from above. And we flew from Anchorage to Talkeetna, stopped in Talkeetna, got ice cream, and then flew back. So
man, you got the full Alaskan experience right there. Not many people can say that they've done that.
Yes, but it wasn't the full experience because, I would go back in a heartbeat and see more because there was so much, there's so much to see, of course, but it's an incredible wild place. It just, I couldn't believe how, normal all these adventurous things are to people. And, going out, we went out and I remember we were single at the time and just kind of footloose and fancy free. And we went to this bar and we met up with some of her friends and we were just out dancing and having a good time, relatively wholesome. But, I remember like the sun never quite set and it was like 3 a.m. by the time I looked at my phone and saw what time it was. And it was just looked like it was 6 in the evening, it was pretty amazing.
It is amazing. Yeah, I used to bartend and and yeah, you go to work in the evening, it's still light out. Uh-huh. And then I would get off about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Because closing time there is a little bit later. And the light, it would still be light out. And then from there, we would go to another bar that my friend bartended at, and that bar closed at 5 o'clock in the morning. So the entire time, it's light out.
Uh-huh. Your brain is just tricking you into thinking there's still more time to go out and have fun, right?
It messes with you for sure. You know,
It
the
does.
extreme darkness and the extreme light.
Yeah. It's not for the faint of heart.
Definitely not. Definitely not. And when I moved, you know, growing up there as a kid, you didn't realize the effect that it has on you.
Yes.
But, you know, coming from, you know, spending a year in Colorado and all the sunshine that we have here, and then moving back to Alaska, I was like, holy cow, how did I do this before? Like, I don't think I could do it again. Like, I don't think I could do the dark. I can do cold. All right. You know, but darkness, no.
Yes, I agree. It's hard on mental health.
Yeah, absolutely.
To say the least.
Hey, I want to talk about these other pieces that you had in the show.
Yeah.
This one also sold Flight. This was another great piece. Talk a little bit about this.
Thank you. Yeah, it was another. I set up the still life on the floor. The cow skull and the mandibles. I found them in a hike. Kwong and I went on a hike out in the Colorado mountains somewhere. I don't even remember exactly where we were, but you know, we were walking through the woods, and one of my favorite things to do is find bones in the woods. I love stumbling across bones. To me, it's like jackpot. Kwong is a big mushroom forager. I don't know if a lot of his friends and acquaintances know this about him, but he is a mushroom fanatic. He loves wild mushrooms. And so, of course, he turned me on to wild mushrooms. And so that's one of our favorite things to do in the summertime is we go up and we forage for Boletus edulis. They're porcini mushrooms that grow anywhere, usually above 9,000, 10,000 feet. Anyway, the cool thing about mushroom foraging, I'm sorry, and then I'll come back around to like this painting and what inspired it. But one of the cool things about mushroom foraging that I discovered unexpectedly is that when you're out hiking or you're out in the mountains, you're looking out and in front of you, you know, you're looking at this kind of big, vaster expanse of space. But when you're mushroom hunting, you're looking down at the ground the entire time. So you're noticing all these mosses and different fungi. Even the non-edible ones are so beautiful, and ferns and little pieces of bark and woodland things and different fallen leaves. And you just see all these really beautiful details that you wouldn't see unless you're searching for something on the ground. So you get to kind of see the forest floor in this cool way. So we tend to find a lot of bones as we're walking around. So I found this skull, and then the jawbones were next to it, and I just loved it. I thought the jawbones actually kind of looked like wings, and I don't know. I just kept them displayed on my shelf like that, like they were kind of sitting like that against the back of my shelf, and they just looked like white dove wings almost. And one day I thought, you know what? I want to set up a still life, but I want to set it up on the floor, and I want it to be symmetrical. I want it to kind of feel like a mandala or a rose window. I want it to be symmetrical, like very intentional. And also the pheasant pelt was one that Kwong actually shot on a hunting trip in Idaho. And he is such an animal lover. And that was the first and last time he ever went hunting with his friend. But they went on this pheasant hunt, and he got this pheasant, and then he got the pelt from it. And I love all the colors in that pheasant pelt. I mean, just there's some really, really beautiful colors. There's like kind of iridescent purples and reds and greens. I mean, obviously it's brown if you just look at it sort of with this cursory look, but when you look closely, there are a lot of really beautiful color variations. And so I wanted there to be kind of a symmetry between the jawbones that look like wings, and then actual bird wings up above. And so I set it up on my studio floor in Denver. And then I kind of put that hat on. I mean, it kind of looks like a tri-cornered hat, which someone pointed out to me later, but that didn't really occur to me when I was painting it. But then I had these dried rose petals, and I thought, that sort of works with the whole theme. There's something about these dried rose petals that, to me, kind of, I wanted the rose petals to kind of feel like they were floating. Do you know that Sir Lawrence Alma-Tadema painting called The Roses of Helioglobulus? Sorry, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but anyway, there's like a huge wave of rose petals that are cascading through that painting, like floating through the air. I was thinking about that, just making this kind of ring of rose petals that's sort of floating. And I wanted it to feel like everything was kind of floating in the night sky. Yeah, I just set it up in the natural light of my studio and, put a dark cloth underneath it. And I just painted it from life that way.
You did a wonderful job, because it does feel like they're suspended above a plane, right? They're just out there. And the composition is amazing. It's absolutely wonderful composition. So
thank you. I so appreciate that.
This is another one that's just an amazing piece. I love the warmth of it and the use of color, and the colors in the pheasant are impeccable. I mean, the Chinese ringneck pheasant is the South Dakota state bird. So I kind of and so we see a lot of them running around. Obviously, they're not originally from here because they're imported from China originally, but we have a lot of pheasant hunting here, so you see them running around all the time. And it's amazing. And I just really love this piece. And I think there's that connection. I love the bird, and I didn't make that connection between the mandolins and the wings, but boy, once you describe it, you can't not see it.
Right? Oh, thank you. Thank you. I so appreciate that. I do. Oh my gosh, those pheasants are so beautiful, aren't they? I mean, they're amazing. They used to be really plentiful in Pennsylvania, apparently, too. My dad grew up in a very rural part of Pennsylvania, and he said, oh, we used to get off the school bus, and my friends and I, every day after school, we'd get our shotguns and we'd go out and shoot pheasants in the field. And it was like, he did that as a teenager growing up, in the 60s. And I was like, wow, you just don't see them anymore. And I think a lot of it has to do with of course, the use of DDT, I think it is, like pesticides and farming chemicals that make the shell of the egg too thin to sustain the life of the chick. So, yeah, I mean, very, very sad. But yeah, I've never seen a pheasant in Pennsylvania.
You got to kind of build, they got to winter there, so you got to build the hides and everything for them to, to nest in. And I think a lot of times if you plow a lot, of course, Pennsylvania has a lot of wooded area, but they're wild, but a lot of pheasant reserves, they have to like buy the pheasants and bring them in.
That's right.
So, but yeah, right. Anyway, love this painting. Is beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I love how you captured those feathers so well. And if you've never looked at a feather like that, they almost like change color, right? The way
they're iridescent.
Yeah, iridescent. Yeah, yep.
That's exactly right. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, that is so true. I mean, it is miraculously beautiful. I mean, looking at bird feathers up close is just incredible. I was hiking in the woods with some of my friends the other day, the woods behind our house here in Pennsylvania. And we came across, like, unfortunately, it was the aftermath of some kind of an attack of a fox or a stray cat or something had attacked a blue jay. And all that was left was like a whole lot of blue feathers. And these blue jay feathers, though, I was like, wow, I've never gotten that close to a blue jay. I've never seen blue jay feathers up close, but I was like looking at, it was just, there were no bones or anything. It was just a huge mass of feathers, like some massacre had taken place. But it's just looking close at these blue jay feathers. And I was like, wow, they're just like iridescent blue, and whatever it is that creates that, that whatever that film is that's on each fiber of the feather, like each little filament, it's just so so beautiful. The markings are so beautiful. Something as common as a blue jay that we see every day, but really, really beautiful.
It's interesting to hear somebody talk about these experiences, right? Because it's available to everybody, but we just take things for granted. And if you don't stop and like have these kind of experiences, you're really missing out. And you just realize how beautiful the natural world really is, right? How complex and how amazing.
That's right. I think also I have to say, where we live in Pennsylvania, we're on 3 acres of land, and we're surrounded by, I mean, there's a rural area around us, and we're really close to where we live now is really close to where I grew up. So I watched all this beautiful farmland get developed into housing tracts. So it's like, where we live right now is kind of one of the last bastions of really preserved, untouched land in our county. And it's a really special place. I can't even describe to you, when growing up here, it's like, it's in my bones. I love this landscape, and I never realized how much I loved it until I left. I mean, I lived a lot of different places in my 20s and into my early 30s. And then, then I moved back here to Pennsylvania, but there's so much beauty to be seen. And also, because I have an atelier background, I grew up drawing and painting from life, from the model. And then I really started gravitating to the figure and to portraiture, and actually commissioned portraiture was kind of my first, the first way that I started making a living as a teenager. And so it's funny because I always just zeroed in on figures and on really mastering painting flesh. But in the last 5 years, I've been really steering more towards a closer look at the natural world, and florals and feathers and bones, and like all these things that are really there to be marveled at, if we take the time to look. And because we live in this place in Pennsylvania that's so quiet. I mean, when we're here, it's kind of a slower paced lifestyle than, when we're in Denver. And so it just kind of allows us that contemplative time to really look and appreciate. And we have trails all through the woods. There's, a couple 100 acres of woods behind our house. And so there's trails all through it. So we get to, appreciate that. And I'm really grateful that our son gets to grow up here too, and really experience the magic of that for himself, because not everyone has access or easy access to that. We all have access to that, but we have such easy access to it because it's literally in our backyard. It's an incredible gift, and I'm trying really hard to do justice to it, because I thought, wow, I'll be darned if I just stay in my studio painting figurative paintings when I've got all this stuff, right? Beautiful things to observe and paint right here,
So I'm going to ask real quick, where in Pennsylvania do you live roughly?
We live in York, Pennsylvania. So it's southeastern Pennsylvania.
Okay. So I got family in Gettysburg. Waynesboro, actually,
okay,
which is close to Gettysburg. So
that's close to Gettysburg. Yeah, we're about a 40-minute drive. We're just east of Gettysburg, so we're really close. That's pretty cool.
Oh, cool. That's neat.
Yeah,
it is a beautiful area. It is absolutely a beautiful area. Yeah.
Yeah, we really love it. We're really close also to Lancaster County. We're right on the border of Lancaster County, and that's where the big Amish population is. So there's a lot of really preserved farms, and when you drive around out there, it's like the land that time forgot. I mean, it's so pure, and it's like stepping back in time, and the land is so beautiful. And it's just, it has a distinctive innocence about it. Just a really beautiful place to be.
And I think people really need to take advantage of now nature and, spend some time out there, because, with the population as it is, and, we've been talking about this, a few times, where it's sad to see all this beautiful nature getting sold and developed into housing. I mean, it's a necessity.
Right. What are you going to do?
Exactly. I mean, but I think this is really a prime time for everybody just to get out and be part of nature and just really enjoy it, because we got a lot of open spaces as well, in the prairies of, the Midwest or whatever. But man, I go to, Colorado, or I go to Arizona to see my daughter, and it's, the development there is just like exploding, and it's happening here in Rapid too. So.
Oh my gosh, I bet. Yeah. So where are you in South Dakota? Rapid?
Yeah, the Black Hills. So Rapid City. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
I've never been out there.
Well, if you ever come, let me know.
Yeah. Is that where Sturgis happens every year?
Yeah.
But But
So
don't
if you're
go
going to come for Sturgis, stay a little longer, because then you get to enjoy the other side of not Sturgis.
Don't go during Sturgis.
Yeah.
But that would be a great family trip if you've never experienced that, and if Kwong hasn't experienced it, it'd be a great place to go do a family vacation for sure.
Yeah, it is on our list for sure. I don't know how we've never gotten around to it, but yeah, that's definitely on our bucket list. And then it's like you said though, Wes, it is true that it's so important. And I also, as a parent, and you guys know this as well as anyone, that I grew up without the internet. My childhood did not include the internet. When I was a teenager, of course, there were like chat rooms and there was AOL, people had AOL email addresses, but it wasn't really like, I came of age at a time before like the internet was really, used, or personal computers even, it was just a different time. And I know that has so much to do with the kind of artist that I am. And, and I just, as a parent now, I just think about how much time kids spend on TikTok. And I know that makes me sound like an old lady, but really I'm so grateful that we have this property right here. And, our son Liam, he loves being outside. I mean, he loves to go. Every morning he wakes up and, we get him dressed and everything. And he goes, walk, walk, walk. He wants to go out for a walk, and he loves to walk around the yard, walk around the woods. He loves it. And I think to get children really loving and appreciating that as part of their daily life is, a step in the right direction. We're going to do our best, but it's just, it's really important.
Well, it'll be those moments that he remembers the rest of his life. He'll think back at those moments,
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Giving your son those experiences, that's something they will carry forever. And
you're right.
And I commend you two for being an engaged parents. I can tell, even though we don't have a personal connection, we haven't met in person, and I haven't seen you interacting, but I see the pictures that you guys post on social media, and I can just tell that you're engaged, and I think that's fantastic, the way that you're raising your son, because not every child, even my own children, me having my childhood in Alaska.
Yeah.
They got some of that, but not on the level that I got to experience it. So that's cool that you're exposing your son to some of those things that you got to experience as a kid as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I so appreciate that, Todd. And it's also, the fact that we're like elderly parents, we started our family late, we're not young parents. And so the amazing thing about that is that it kind of gave us time. We don't feel the same kind of pressures as like when people start their families a little bit younger than us. I'm in my late 30s, and it's just like I feel like I really had an adequate chance to sort of establish my career to where I felt good about it as an artist, and to explore artistically and finish my educational goals. And then also, Kwong was really at a great place in his life and in his career, when we met, and it kind of enabled us to relax a little bit and not have to we still work a lot, and we still worry about how we're going to make our deadlines and all that, but it really allowed us to be more present. I'd say, if this would have happened for like the two of us 10, 15 years ago, it would have been a different story. It would have been, we would have been more stressed and less present. And so I have to say it has been good timing in that way.
So how has parenting kind of influenced your art or affected your art?
Yeah. Well, I listened to the interview that you guys did with Jill Sokop, and I loved what she said about that, which I totally relate to, which is that it forces you to be a better time manager, which I still truly have not mastered. It is still one of my Achilles heels. And I still, and nowadays, we have this wonderful nanny who comes 2.5 days a week we get her because she has another job, but she loves Liam. We love her. She loves us. She's like a member of our family. Liam loves her, and she's wonderful. I wish we had her for more time, but we get 2.5 days with her. And those 2.5 days, boy, I'll tell you, I make them count. And, at the end of those days, I get done with working and I feel like exhausted and satisfied with the day's work. And I feel ready to go back to the house and be present with my family. And I thought, wow, I really like the compartmentalized life. I'm sure you guys relate to this too when you were raising your own families. It's like when you know that work has to happen within this amount of time, you have this amount of time to make these amount of things happen. You make it happen within those amount of time. I mean, I can't believe how much time I used to fritter away. And even still I do, but back then I used to, and Kwong and I both of us are late night people. So when we met, it was nothing for us to we'd get some yard work done during the day. We're on 3 acres in Pennsylvania. So, we would be out doing yard tasks and taking care of emails and putting out other fires. And then we get into the studio, around noon or something. And then we'd work, and then, we'd have a little lunch or something, and then we'd work. And then we would make dinner at 9 or 10 p.m. And then if we felt good, we'd go back out and work until sometimes the wee hours in the morning. We just lived for our work, and we'd, meet up and have dinner and everything. But we just we were late nighters, and we didn't really have that good of boundaries on our time. And now we're just much more regimented about at least I really am too. I don't, I used to if somebody came to town and wanted to have lunch, I would say yes, but now I'm I don't make daytime obligations unless it's a doctor's appointment. I don't really make any kind of, I just use my daylight hours for studio time. And Liam lives in our studios. So really, on the days that our nanny does not have him, he is hanging out in our studios. So I have a little gated off part of my studio for him. And he'll play in there peacefully for a little bit, but then he'll stand there and he'll be talking at me and wanting to engage, and he wants out. So usually he's kind of running around and he's taking things off my shelf and he's tearing my studio apart. And most of the time I'm kind of just crisis management when he's in my studio. So I don't really get work done, but Kwong and I split our day with him. So, we're kind of in this pattern where Kwong will take him in the morning through nap time. So then when he naps, and then after his nap is over, 2 or 3 in the afternoon, then Kwong brings him to me, and then I take him until bedtime. We do it that way. And then Kwong will work, from afternoon until bedtime, and I'll get all of my work done from first thing in the morning to 2 or 3 p.m. So, and I find that I'm just healthiest and happiest that way, when I can kind of contain my work hours. Now I definitely panic about painting time, and we have a lot of commitments in 2023, which I'm really excited about, and I'm grateful. And the truth is, it's going better than I thought. You have no idea, when you suddenly out of nowhere find out that you're going to become a parent. And for Kwong and I, this was just a delightful, wonderful surprise for us. And neither of us were really aiming at having a family. We were both just really devoted to our art. And that was just something that we always were just focused on our work. So Liam has just added such a wonderful, unexpected dimension to our life. And he's so precious and he's so dear to us. And he's become such the center of our world. But, I have to say, I'm so grateful that we're both artists, because it allows us to both work from home. We build our studios on our property in Pennsylvania. So our studios are outbuildings on our property. So we're away from the house enough that we don't have distractions there. And we have our own studios. So I have my space and Kwong has his space. And then we're both flexible time-wise. We're working in our studios all day. So if I were married to someone who worked in corporate America, it would be totally different. It would be, I would be home all day with a toddler. And it would not be good for my mental health. You know, just to be able to keep working has been so good for me and so important to me, and for Kwong too. I mean, we've really been, we haven't said no to any opportunities. We've really been, like, for the most part, just pressing forward with our work and focused on growing as artists. And one of the big things that has changed for me too, I can tell personality wise, is that I used to be such a yes person and a people pleaser. And if an opportunity came along to do something, I got invited to do something, and I would say yes to it. And, you know, opportunities have come along that have been like, oh, well, that would be fun, and I could say yes to it. But I don't feel the deep personal connection or like deep personal sense of calling. And like, I don't feel like I would grow as an artist from it. And that's been a big change, is that, like, I'm very selective about the projects that I take on and the things that I say yes to, and the shows and commissions that I do and things like that. I've just become a lot more selective about what I do, so that I really am only working on what I feel is most central to who I am, you know, things that really reflect my spirit. It's like, there was a time when I just would have been like, okay, how many of those do you want? And you want them like this, and you want them this size? Okay. You know, then, and there's nothing wrong with that. And there's a time for that. But now I'm just really doing things that I feel are really taking me to the next level as an artist. I'm trying really hard to just make sure that every painting I do, that I'm really, like, personally connected to it and really growing through it. And, you know, because when your time is cut, your time to paint is cut so drastically, you just have to really make it count.
Yeah. So being able to prioritize your time these days and having kids, right,
Yeah.
has really helped you kind of distill, like, where you're going and what you're doing. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Big time. Yeah. I feel like I've just become very clear about who I am as an artist in the last 2 years, really. That's something that's relatively new for me. And I don't have a forceful personality. I've always known what I've wanted to do very deep in my heart. And I've been blessed to have people around me who have been incredibly supportive and encouraging since the beginning. And, you know, from my parents to all of my teachers to, you know, every friend in my life, every person, you know, is so supportive. And you know, that's all really, really important. But, you know, when I was in graduate school, I got a lot of flack for how romantic my work was, and how all kinds of criticisms about my work, and how you know, it's not really contemporary enough. It's not addressing enough ills of our, you know, social ills, or it's not really critical enough of the world, or it's not, you know what I mean? Like, I think there's this sense that in order to create important art, you have to either be suffering, or you have to make work that is somehow about that. Or, you know, I think for a long time, I kind of lived with that. I really internalized that criticism in a way that really kept me away from doing what my heart really wanted to do. And I think that has been an important thing for me, especially, you know, now, you know, I've been painting for a long time, but the hardest part of the journey, you know, all of the technical stuff, you're honing the craft constantly. You're working at that at all times, you know, but the really the hardest part is your personal vision. And figuring out what that personal vision is, and it can't be rushed. It has to come with time. And then it's like owning that personal vision and really cultivating that, and not being afraid to, like, be who you really are as an artist. It's a really hard thing to do. It's hard to describe, but yeah, it is. It's a hard thing to do. It's like, you just want to be one of the cool kids. And then when you realize that you're just not a very rock and roll person, and you have to just accept who you are. And it's like, once you just accept that, for me, once I've really accepted that, it's been really wonderful. I've been so at peace with who I am.
But leading up to that, it was a little bit of an internal struggle.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, I mean, I've always, I mean, I had a really wonderful experience in undergraduate in art school. I went to Laguna College of Art and Design in Laguna Beach, California, and it's a school that really shares my values. I mean, it's a realist art school. It's kind of like an atelier that's accredited. So, I mean, you're drawing and painting from life. You're talking about the old masters. You're analyzing old master compositions. It's an incredible education. I really, really had a great education, but I was just encouraged all the way through, and I had some good critiques, but, yeah, then when I got to graduate school in Boston, it was like they were speaking a completely different language. And everyone thought I was just the corniest person in the world because I loved Maxfield Parrish and, the golden age illustrators. And I think, Dean Cornwell and Walter Everett and all those guys. And I'm like, wow, I told Kwong just today, I was telling him that I got out my Maxfield Parrish book today to look at his palette and kind of how he handled some skies. And I'm painting a sky in my painting right now that is kind of reminiscent of one of his paintings. And so I was just kind of like thumbing through this book. And as I was paging through it, I was paying close attention to how I felt deep inside. And I was like, oh my gosh, it just feels so good. I just felt so like my heart was activated by looking at this work. I felt something inside me just like come alive. And I think you have to listen to that, and you can't let anybody, talk you out of your heroes and the work that you love and the kind of work that you want to do and what you aspire to. And that's been a hard lesson for me.
I think that's one of the things that art school can really, how it can hurt people.
Yes.
How it can hurt artists. Because if you're not doing work that jives with whoever your instructor or instructors are at the time, it could be a hard pill to swallow. It's one thing to be critiqued on the work that you're doing from a technical standpoint,
right.
But if it doesn't fit within, their idea of what it should be, that can be really hard, really difficult. And I think I think it kills a lot of people, to be honest with you.
So too. I think so. It could have killed me for sure if I had less support in my life or less good guidance that came after it. And I think you're totally right. I mean, I think art school can really, really derail people in so many different ways. I remain grateful that I did that program because it challenged me and it definitely made me stronger in other ways. But I think that's, like you said, I think there's this sense of like, well, I remember one of my professors saying, because I paint a lot of figures, I paint a lot of female figures. And she said, well, why don't you, you should be smart like Jenny Saville and Lisa Yuskavage. They're using their art to, they're painting these very, very large bodies, like very, very corpulent bodies that they depict that have been, like in Jenny Saville's case, have been mutilated by plastic surgery scars and things like that. And they were like, why don't you start painting things like from a more critical perspective? And it's funny because like I love the work of those female artists. I've always admired those artists, but I'm just not one of them. And I can tell. I've always kind of known that. And it's funny because it's like, wow, I guess I could, and I know it would get me a lot of attention, and I know I could start showing at these galleries in Chelsea that would consider me important. But how much do I want to really sell my soul for that? Like how much do I want to really become a person that I'm not to get that kind of acclaim? So in a way, yeah, it's like you realize that you can't put a price on doing exactly what you want to do and doing what makes you happy. And if people think that you're completely irrelevant to the contemporary art story, if people think that you're the most kitsch, corny person, that's okay. And I'm actually completely okay with that now. And I think there was a time when I would have really resisted, but I do think that it's just that personal vision really has to be protected. It's like childhood innocence in a way.
You got to be true to that voice,
Yeah.
And if you're not being true to it, I do believe that the viewer senses that.
I think so.
That they, when I look at the work that you had in the chorus show, that's honest work. Like it's just beautiful. Like you feel it. It just resonates. It just comes right off the pieces. You just get enveloped by it. And it's honest. And if you're just doing it to, like you said, be one of the cool kids or to fit it within this particular box of what people think is the thing,
Definitely.
It wouldn't have that feel.
That's right. I think you're right. I think people can tell. I think you're totally right. There's definitely a transmission of the artist's intention, and you can read it. It's completely true.
I like Maxfield Parrish as well, just so you know.
Thank you.
His stuff is stunning for sure.
Yeah, it truly is. Yeah. He's great. Truly love his work. In graduate school, they said, one of my professors, he's British, and he said, that's art on chocolate boxes. Which, I mean, yeah, he did do some chocolate boxes, but they were incredible chocolate boxes.
Right. Your stuff pulls right out of classicism, isn't it? It looks like it was painted at the turn of the 19th century.
Yes, I'm thank you. I appreciate that. I'm very inspired by that time period.
Yeah. It has a sense of innocence to it and purity, and I really kind of connect to that. Especially your portrait work. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
I so appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, it's a gift to be an artist, and these dramas that we go through with ourselves are, I have to remind myself, it's like, just to even still be on the journey is incredible. But yeah, it's tough. It's definitely challenging coming to your own.
So talking about paintings, and so I noticed you have a lot of female nudes, and then more classical flower kind of stuff. Do nudes sell? I mean, is that something that sells pretty well, or do you find your other stuff sells better?
Yeah, I don't have any nudes left. I mean, I've sold all my nudes, but I wouldn't say they sell fast. But they always find an audience. Kwong has this very funny story about when he started working with Michael Sachs Gallery in Denver, and he was a young artist. He was in his 20s, and Kwong was doing a whole lot of nudes at the time, and Michael was selling his, he was selling his still lifes and his nudes, but he was selling a little more of the still lifes, and he gave him a solo show, and he said, yeah, you can do anything you want as long as it's not nudes, because I can't sell nudes. Well, Kwong gave him a show of all nudes, and they all sold. So he wanted to prove a point. He was like, listen, if they're nudes that are done well, they will find homes. And I think, that was it always kind of cracked me up. But yeah, there's this perception that nudes, and nudes can run the gamut, right? I mean, they can be like really confrontational, edgy nudes. Or they can be like these kind of quieter, tasteful nudes, and it all depends on the pose. It all depends on the way it's rendered. Sometimes you look at nudes that are painted by certain artists, like Richard Schmidt. I have a book of all of his nudes, but there's like nothing even remotely erotic about them, because a lot of them are from the back, and the way they're painted is so expressive, and that they just have a different feeling than like a nude that's done by I don't know. I can't think of an artist right now that would do a nude that would be more, a little more scandalous. But that's, yeah, it's just a matter of how you do it. And I think also because like my taste is so like, it's normally like not just the nude, but it's normally in some kind of an environment, whether it's a landscape environment or if there's a floral element. So I think it is always kind of like not just the nude, but it's got these other elements involved in it. I've really focused on figurative work in the last, I'd say like the last 10, 15 years. I've done largely figurative work, but I've been incorporating a lot more landscape and into my repertoire now. And now Kwong and I kind of have an exciting thing coming up. We were invited to be the artist in residence at Ledoux Topiary Gardens for 2023. So it's a botanical garden, public botanic garden that's in Moncton, Maryland. And they choose a different artist every year to be the artist in residence. And you don't live on the premises, but they give you the key for access at any time to go paint on the grounds. Or you can go and take photo references and paint in your studio, or you can do a combination of the two. And then, you do a demo there. And then they give you a show at the end of the year. So I'm currently working on these florals from photo references that I took at the garden. So I'm just enjoying the heck out of these garden scenes. It's just so exciting to do that. And, I just kind of shifting away from the figurative work and then bouncing back and forth. And I have a portrait commission that's going on right now and just a whole bunch of different projects that are happening. So I'm really enjoying the variety of subject matter that I'm working on right now.
That's amazing. That is.
Yeah.
And like the painting behind you, I don't know the name of that one. That's one of yours, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's called May Symphony. Those are all the flowers in that arrangement. There's a big glare on it right now, but those are all foraged from our property in Pennsylvania. The former owner of our home had been a master gardener. And so she lived in our home for 60 years. So our whole house, all of our grounds are just her creation, basically. So, I mean, it is incredible. Our garden was really her masterpiece. Oh yeah. Good work. Thank you.
Way to go to find that one, Todd.
Yeah. Todd is on it.
So my comment about this is typically when I see still lifes like this, I really struggle of like, what's it trying to tell me? But there's something about this that like I was looking at it behind you and I'm like, oh man, I really love this. And I can't even tell you what really attracts me to it, but I really love this piece. And I don't have that feeling where I'm overthinking it. I just like being with it, if that makes sense.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate that.
As a still life painter, if we're looking at that, what are you looking for when you're building your still life or something like this? Now, obviously, the ones you talked about with the bones, you really described that really interesting that I wouldn't have thought about. So considering this, what are you looking for here when you're building this?
I really tend to gravitate towards spiral compositions or like zigzag. So I'm always kind of looking for that way to like zigzag the eye through the painting so that there's diagonals so that you get this like serpentine movement. So for me, I wanted to start off with like these whispery dogwoods at the top and then they kind of come down in that sense of like gravity and weight as you get closer to the bottom. So like the heavier flowers are towards the bottom, so that it almost kind of feels like I wanted those dogwoods up top to feel like they were butterflies, almost just like flying away. So that you kind of get that sense of like moving, from the top left and then down and to the right a little bit. And then it hits the right side of the painting and then it zigzags off to the left again. And then, it's sort of those white flowers at the bottom left kind of bring you back down into what's on the table. And then the light hitting the bird's nest sort of like brings you back to the center right. So it's kind of all about how the eye travels. There's actually, since you guys are photographers, you guys would appreciate, there's a photographer that I follow on Instagram and she's really incredible. Have you guys heard of Jamie Beck?
No.
She lives in Provence. She's an American. She lives in Provence with her husband. And she just has this incredible eye. She does still life photography, but she photographs things. She lives in this small town in Provence. And she photographs things that she forages just all around her village. So, it could be like just flowers from the hillside or like grapes from a nearby vineyard, or like she'll go to the market and buy a bunch of cheeses and wild mushrooms and like set it up in her studio. And the way that the light hits it, it's just, they're sumptuous, gorgeous still lifes. And they look like she's inspired by Renaissance paintings, like Dutch masters and French masters. So her photographs look like paintings, and she often will do that kind of compositional thing where the light hits things as they kind of cascade down, and you get this movement, and they're really full. I mean, it's not just like one simple flower in a vase. They're really maximalist. I love to be maximalist in my paintings. I love a lot of visual information. I mean, to me, like more is more. So I tend to go all out with these floral compositions. It's just so fun.
Yeah, I really like this piece. It's wonderful. I love the way you have the bird's nest in there, and how it's lit, in a sense, how you've painted it to be lit. Lots of detail. I love the shadow behind it. There's just something about this that, like I said, I don't know if I could have put my finger on it, but yeah, it's really just a wonderful painting.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Wes.
I'm glad how you talked about this painting, and again, hearing you discuss it, now I realize what I've seen in some of your other work, how, and I know this is a fundamental of art, period, but how you really lead the viewer, the eye through the composition. And I've seen that numerous times. I'm going to try to pull up a different piece that I want to, this one is very different than a lot of other pieces that I've seen. And I love it because it's not the vibrant.
Uh-huh.
This one here.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
This is a beautiful piece, and it's very different than, most of the stuff that you see on your website. But I think this is from a while ago, right?
It was. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for bringing this one up. This one's called Sister, and it's actually a portrait of my youngest sister when she was a teenager. And yeah, that, it's funny. I was watching these little short films by Alfred Hitchcock, the Alfred Hitchcock Presents. And I loved the idea of creating a scene with tension and, having a figure in space and having this kind of psychological relation to it. And that American Gothic church is actually on a bike trail that I used to go on rides with my family on this bike trail. And it's this old abandoned Baptist church in southern Pennsylvania. And I just always loved this church, and I always thought that it needed to be in a painting. And now that I'm looking at it again, I'm thinking, wow, it needs to have its own painting. But yeah, I just thought there was something so eerie about this church. It kind of looked like a haunted church. And my sister herself is kind of a haunted person. And I thought, wow, I was kind of seeing a connection between her and that church. And so sort of putting them together in a composition was a challenge for me. I think I had just turned 23 when I started this painting. And so it was kind of like in my early 20s, those sort of figurative paintings that I was doing at that time. And it didn't really have a lot of color, but I was looking at a lot of Wyeth paintings at the time, Andrew Wyeth, of course, and sort of his earth tones and textures. So that was part of what inspired it.
I love the birds.
Yeah.
How the birds are flying through the background. And again, we're talking about how it leads your eye through, and, you go from the birds to your sister's face to the church and back. And the more you stare at it, the more you realize what all's going on.
Yes.
And then you want to know what the story is, right?
Thank you. I appreciate that. I haven't seen this painting in a long time. It's a blast from the past. Thank you.
It's beautiful. So stunning. And again, we were talking about those things that, like Rose seeking out those things that are hidden in the corner,
Yes.
I always like that too. When I always want to see what's different.
Yes.
That the artist does that they're not necessarily sharing. And I'm like, God, that piece right there, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's fun to revisit that one. My gosh, I haven't looked at it in a long time. I remember like at the time when I was painting it, I felt very afraid of it. I would go into my studio and I remember I felt that about very few of my paintings, but this was one that as soon as I started it, I felt nervous about it. And I would think about it as soon as I left the studio. I thought about it all night, and I would come back the next day and I felt that like giddy nervousness, like, oh my gosh, something's about to change. Because it was a different painting for me back then. And just a little bit more on the psychological side, and a little bit more on the eerie side than I normally do. And so I couldn't believe it. And it was a big painting for me at the time too. It's 36 by 48, which is larger than I normally work. So it was a big deal. And then not long after, I sold the painting to these collectors that were relatively new to my work, and they bought it out of my studio, and I could not believe it. Like, I could not believe that someone wanted that paint. You know what I mean? It was like, oh my gosh, it was such validation, because like I said earlier, you're spending those long hours in your studio thinking, am I nuts? Am I just screaming into the void? Am I doing anything that means anything to anyone, and you're struggling with it, and, but I just had to get it out. And as soon as I did it, it was like that validation of someone bringing it into their home. I mean, it's such an intimate thing. And I remember just being like blown away by that when I was a young artist.
It does have that
That's
haunting
amazing.
feel to it. And I think it's wonderful. And I would gravitate towards this a lot. I could see somebody snatching this up pretty quick, because there's just something, I don't know. It definitely evokes an emotion out of you looking at it. Right.
Thank you so much.
So
Yeah,
did you ever
absolutely.
figure out why you were so haunted by it? Was it just because it was a departure, or?
Yeah, I think it is because it was a departure, and it was a little bit more, it was a little more eerie than my other paintings. And it was bigger than my other paintings at the time. And,
sure.
and, I had dreamed about doing it for a long time. So I did a large to scale drawing of it, like the same size in my studio. I drew it out on a huge piece of paper so that I could really see if the vision in my mind, like, work out the details of like how big I wanted her to be, so that it looked like she's really close in the foreground, how big I needed the church to be so that it looked to scale, and where's the vanishing point, and like where are the trees, and what, like just sort of just working out the details of it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Thank you.
So Todd, can you bring up, this will be an easy one to find, her front page and the painting of the woman in the center, first row center, called Demeter.
Yeah.
So just to, contrast that painting with this one that we're going to look at. So I love this painting a lot. And a lot of it is her face and how she's looking at you. Oh my God, I love this piece. I mean, it was just like, of course it's in the center, but my vision just went straight to this piece, and she is so beautiful. The colors are so vibrant. The flowers are so gorgeous. This whole thing, and the background, the distant background, and how that's all painted. This so works so well. The composition is just stellar. So can you talk about this piece real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually started this piece a couple days after my son was born. So I gave myself a couple days off, and then I took him into the studio, and I just got right back to work. So, I mean, really, I wanted to paint something that was kind of the visual representation of joy and abundance, essentially like the joy of being a wife and a mother, and, sort of like bounty and joy and fertility and like all those things. And so I was like, well, my friend Sydney, who posed for this painting, I had done a photo shoot with her, and I had her, I had this long gold drapery that I was playing around with her, and I wanted this like almost like a river of gold going through the painting. Like, again, like we were talking about with that earlier composition of the floral behind me, that serpentine shape just flow, like how I wanted your eye to flow through the painting so that, your eye would move from the yellow of that sunflower to like the yellow of that dress to like the drapery tumbling down like a river and then carrying you to the wilting sunflowers at the bottom. And, so I'm trying to be conscious of using color to lead your eye around. And I really love things, kind of hiding things in the painting. Like I really want to be generous with visual imagery in the painting. And I always kind of think about this idea of like paintings as an offering, as a gift, like how, I want to create a painting that I would want to see out there in the world and that I would get excited to get up close and look at. And to me, I want it to be like the gift that keeps on giving. So I want there to be like little things hidden in it that you don't really see unless you get up really close. And so there's insects, there's flies, there's like a couple apples that are starting to turn and sort of go towards the over-ripened and rotten phase. And so you've got like this whole kind of life cycle within one painting. And then the landscape that's behind her is a view from Châteauneuf de Gadagne, which is a village in France where Kwong and I went and stayed for a couple of weeks while Kwong was teaching a workshop there in 2019, and I tagged along. So I painted all over this town, and I had done a small study of this landscape from the chateau where everyone was staying. And so it was just this beautiful vista of cypress trees and then the village beyond it and then the mountains, and every sunset was just so beautiful and this golden light in Provence. And so, yeah, it's kind of a tribute. I mean, to me, it's like this combination of like a tribute to Provence and the golden light of Provence, and also like the joy of wife and motherhood and all of those other things. And so, yeah, Demeter, who's the goddess of the harvest, I sort of chose her. And there's some sheaves of wheat kind of coming up from the bottom too. I mean, I just kind of wanted everything to sort of be like one thing leading into everything else, that they're all kind of part of a seamless whole. And I haven't always, I feel like I used to not really do that successfully. And I'm not even saying that I'm doing it successfully to this day, but I just mean when I try to invent figures in front of I want to put them in an environment, and I'm putting everything together from multiple sources. I mean, this painting, it's like, there's so many sources. There's like 30 sources. Like the flowers in the bottom half of the painting came from an arrangement that I saw that was happening at a funeral dinner. I was at this restaurant, and they had just had a wake for someone there. They had just had like this it was someone's funeral, and they had this huge floral arrangement, and I asked them if I could take it home since it was no longer in use, and they said no. And I said, well, will you sell it to me? I'll pay like whatever you ask. And they said no. So I photographed it and used it in my painting, because I was like, oh, I just have to use these textures and these colors. And, the sunflowers are from another source, and the apples are from something completely different. And, the grapes are from another painting I did. And then the background space is from a study that I did in Provence. And, so like everything is just sort of taken from a different source that I'm bringing all these things together. So
how real a life is her face to her, to the model's face?
To what she actually looks like? Very similar. I would say like if you knew the model, you could look at this painting and realize that it was her.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I just fell in love with her. So.
Oh, thank you. I know. I'm in love with her too, in the most like platonic way possible. I mean, she's my muse. Her name is Sydney, and she's become a close friend over the years. And she's based in Denver, but she's an art model that modeled for our group in Denver. And I just got to know her. We became friends, and she's modeled for me personally for so many paintings that I've done. And she just has that like old world classic beauty. She's just really intense and beautiful, and she's just, everything about her is so elegant. And she's inspired some of my best work. Actually, it's the relationship between an artist and between a figurative artist and a model is is so potent. And I really work mostly with people that I've known for a long time, that I'm comfortable with, because um yeah, like I said, that relationship is like I don't know, it's so creative, and it's so you have something in mind, and you really want to be working with somebody who gets it, who knows what you're trying to do, and who can like evoke that feeling and give you what you're looking for. And so, yeah, I could paint Sydney for a lifetime.
Yeah, she's this. If this painting hung in my living room, I would. This is all I'd look at. Like I
Oh,
could just
thank
get
you.
rid of the television and just gaze into this whole painting for forever. And then my second comment about this is this. I know it's sold and it's in a private collection, but this could be in a museum. Just,
Thank you.
I mean, it's just stunning. It's absolutely
Thank you.
stunning.
I
So
appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Heavenly. That's
it
the
is.
way I would describe that painting.
Thank
Heavenly.
Yeah.
Thank you. That means the world to me. Thank you so much.
I love that left hand, how it leads you through into the rest of the arrangement, towards the bottom. Again, we're talking about how that eye gets led through the photograph with that S shape, or the curves, right? The zigzag.
Yes. Yeah, those elements are so important. I mean, these are all things that you guys probably focus on every day, because that's the most important thing about photography, right? You're composing. Do you guys photograph, like, what do you focus on? What subject matter for the most part?
So I'm a people photographer first and foremost, but I do a lot of different things to pay my mortgage, just put it that way.
Yeah. Okay.
My forte, I would say, is people. Like I enjoy working with people. I enjoy portraits. I love environmental portraits, which, I have a large body of work, a personal project I've been working on since 2007, documenting women across the Southwest. So I appreciate what you do as a painter, compositionally wise, and your use of color. I mean, the whole thing, the way that you see light, you can tell right off when somebody understands light or not,
Oh,
whether
thank
it's
you.
in photography or somebody that paints, especially in painting, because I really appreciate how difficult it is to get the values correct and to make it look realistic. That's so, I mean, I don't paint, but I can imagine how difficult that must be.
It is. Yeah, it's a whole, yeah, right. Like I said, it's like spinning plates. Like you just, when you think you've got one thing under control, and you've got the craft element in motion, and you're like feel confident about that, and then there's composition to try to master, and then there's personal vision, and then there's so much, and you guys understand it as much as anybody. And Wes, what about you?
So my primarily photography wise is landscape and then some wildlife. So, and I've
Great.
done all sorts of stuff. I've second shot for wedding photographers, and I've done on shot buildings and stuff like that with other photographers. But where Todd is a professional photographer, he makes his income solely on photography. That's not mine. It's more of an avocation or a part-time gig if I can get it. I've shot for periodicals and stuff like that, but yeah,
Wonderful.
it's not my major gig, but
Yeah.
which is much to my detriment, because I think I missed out on a lifetime of doing wonderful photography, because I didn't make it a living doing it. So
There's a lot to be said about both ways, actually, because I've heard a lot of people say, and I've experienced it firsthand. It's like when you rely on your muse to pay your bills, that can poison the well sometimes too. It's like when your creative practice becomes your living, that changes the nature of your creative practice, and you have to fight more to keep your vision. So yeah, when you do it as more of a side thing, that when you have something else, then sometimes that allows you a little more freedom in your art life, because you're not relying on it for your income. So Kwong always said to me, and I thought it was a wise adage, he always said, paint what you would paint if you had to wash dishes in order to paint. And I always thought, wow, that's such a good, what would you be doing if you had to, if the world wasn't like seeing and appreciating and buying your work, what would you paint if you had to just work a minimum wage job to do it, to make it happen, And yeah, it's just like, wow, it just makes you think like, wow, if that pressure were taken off of it, what would you do? I think in some ways it's a gift.
That is a gift right there. I love how you just described that, how Kwong described that.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, of course, we want to be doing our art all the time, right? I mean, we want as many hours in the day as we can, just doing it. I know that for me, I mean, I can just say personally that I feel that at work in myself as grateful as I am to be a full-time painter. It's incredible. I'm grateful every day, but yeah, I'm not always doing what I want to be doing creatively.
Yeah.
So. There's always that balance no matter what you're doing, right? You got to find that balance.
Yeah, that's right. And then there's always like, it forces you to get even more creative with the projects that you don't feel inspired by, like portrait commissions, for example. Like some of them are exciting and fun. And then some of them I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I like massage this into something that becomes something that I can feel excited about? Like, how can I, change my perception about this, which I have to do for a paycheck? How can I change my perception about this so that this becomes an exciting problem to solve? And how can I come out on the other end of this thing a better artist so that when I approach my personal work, I'm even better and more well equipped? So that's a good way to think about it.
Absolutely.
As what I try to do. Wes, okay.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask Wes what your main gig is.
Well, my main gig, it's changed through the years, but right now I currently do ad specialty sales. So doing sales. I've done sales on and off for half my life. And then I worked for a nonprofit prior to that, and that was more fulfilling. I missed the nonprofit work a lot.
I bet.
So maybe, so sales, and I got a good personality. So people usually like me.
Oh, I'd buy anything from you, Wes. I have known you for, I've only known you since this recording started, but I would buy anything from you.
I got some paint supplies to sell you. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have paint supplies.
Some bridges.
A long sales pitch. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Wow. That's really interesting. And
and I used to supplement my income by doing a lot of wedding photography, that kind of stuff. And then I've done some seniors, sometimes not much to my chagrin, but so I've done a lot. But I'll tell you, looking at some of your figurative work makes me want to like reevaluate. Maybe I should do some figurative stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
I mean, I'm a decent photographer. I can definitely say that.
I can't wait to look at more of your work. I wanted to say, if you want to start on some figurative work, I'm going to hold you. If you're saying that out loud, I'm going to hold you accountable.
Ooh.
So I'm going to email you and be like, okay, have you booked a model? Have you done this? Have you done? I always feel like that. If you say something out loud, right, it's always a good idea to state your intention out loud so that others can hold you accountable.
And we just talked about that the other day. It's like, be careful. That's funny. Be careful, because I was holding somebody else accountable. I wanted them to really think this through.
Yeah. I just heard someone on a podcast say that the other day. She said, I ran the New York Marathon, and the only reason I did it is because I told everybody I was going to do it. And I knew that would be the only reason, because everybody was like, all right, are you training? Are you doing that? So, but yeah, it's so funny. It's like, it helps.
Yeah. No, it's about being accountable. So yeah,
that's right.
So we can talk about this.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'll definitely need some. I mean, between you and Todd, I should be when I'm done talking to both of you, a fantastic figurative photographer.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're going to be critiquing you. We're going to be knocking. You'll be avoiding our phone calls. Just like, I'll be
in the corner weeping like a little kid. They don't like my stuff. Yeah, my Instagram is up, but it has some stuff on it, but I give you a flavor. But good. Yeah. Anyway.
Good. I'll find you on there. And Todd, you're on Instagram and Facebook?
I am. My Instagram, I don't keep up as well as our Tenant podcast one, which much to the chagrin of my wife, she's always giving me grief, but I need to that's one of my goals in this new year is to get my Instagram up with more imagery that of my personal projects and some of the other stuff I've shot. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
It is a good idea because we talk to, artists all the time. And, one of the downfalls is either they don't like doing social media or they're really good at social media or their website needs work. And my website definitely right now, Rose has been giving me grief for over a year. And so that's my other goal this year is get my website looking halfway decent.
That's a good goal. That was my New Year's resolution last year too, was to rebuild my website, and I did it myself on Squarespace. This is not a sponsored ad for Squarespace, but I did build it on Squarespace, and I told myself, it was like January rolled around, and I said I'm just gonna set aside a week of my time to make sure. I mean, it's like even making sure that you have all your images together and everything, even editing down, like I edited out a lot of my paintings from my website, that I didn't feel I curated it pretty heavily. I set up an online store for for studies and things, because I get a lot of people asking me if I have studies and small works and unfinished works that are for sale. So I set that up on there, and there's e-commerce on there. So if you ever want any help, or if you're, I am the least tech savvy person on the planet, and I somehow figured out how to do it. So it's worth taking the time to do.
It is.
And Instagram too. I mean, I think it's worth doing too. It's just the visibility that it gives. It's amazing how many opportunities and things have come of Instagram for me. And I'm not even that active on there. I'm not even that, I don't post any very regularly, but it's just, you have to interact with it in some way as an artist,
Yeah. You were talking about being accountable not only to yourself, but you have other people in your family. And I assume being an artist that's married to an artist, that you and Kwong keep each other accountable. Is that true? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're both just obsessive kinds of people when it comes to art. I mean, we talk about it at dinner. We wake up, have coffee, we show each other what we're working on. I get his opinion. He even gets my opinion, if you can even believe it. But, we critique each other's work all the time. And I kind of forget that. I take it for granted because this is just the life that we live, and we're so immersed in what we do. And, if I didn't have him, then I would have to definitely seek out that kind of community where I could be talking. And I still, my artist friends, I talk about what I'm working on with them, and I get opinions from various friends of mine whose opinions I really respect. And so that's helpful. But yeah, being married to another artist, I mean, our processes are so different, and we approach painting really differently, and we have different aesthetics and different approaches. And, so I'm always amazed at how Kwong approaches something. When I see how he approaches his paintings, I'm always, wow, I would have never thought to do it that way. I would have never. And he's also incredibly fast. I mean, that's like, I swear it's equal parts love and resent that I feel for that guy, because he is so fast. I mean, I can't believe how much he gets done in one day. He'll start a painting. It will be like largely not just blocked in, but like in one day look like he could technically call it done. And then he picks away at it for a number of days afterwards, or like he'll put it aside and work on it another week. But he's really, really fast. And I'm really, really slow. So I call him the fastest brush in the West. He's annoyingly fast, but I just come to accept my process. And I think it's just wonderful to have the variety there, and it's always fresh. He's always surprising me. I always just love to see what he's working on, what he has going on in his studio. And I love talking about his process. And we'll often have like happy hour where we'll meet up after the day is over, and we'll just have a glass of wine together, and we'll talk about what we're working on, or we'll talk about artists that are inspiring us, or just podcasts that we're listening to or whatever. And it's just like I just cherish it so much. And to have it is such a wonderful blessing. And I'm like, wow, I get used to this, living with another artist and sharing that. It's really wonderful. And I'm grateful to have his input too. When I call him in when I need some guidance, I'm working on a painting and I just can't solve a problem. And when my eyes have been on it for too long, it's just really wonderful to have him there to bounce ideas off of.
Some fresh eyes, right?
Fresh eyes.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, absolutely. And then he'll say something or he'll suggest something and I'll be like, oh, darn it. Like I have to do that now. I can't just, because once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
Think, oh yeah, that's the problem there. Okay. Yeah.
So early on, when we were talking early in the podcast, I wrote down this question: how has being married to Quan informed your art? So how has it changed your art?
I would say Kwong has a very easy and natural relationship with his work. He doesn't overthink it. He just really has this like knee-jerk reaction to what he thinks is beautiful and interesting, and he paints it. It's like, a day for him could be like he walks outside and there's a branch that he sees on the ground, and or he'll find a bird's nest on the ground, and then he'll paint that, or he'll go to there's an orchard like quarter of a mile from us, and he'll go there and he'll pick up a big bushel of apples, and then he'll paint that. He just finds beauty kind of everywhere around him, and he just has this very immediate relationship with his work. And he lives I call it like living very close to the easel. Like he just lives very close to the easel. There's a very close relationship between his daily lived experience and his paintings. And I love to see that. And it has inspired me in a lot of ways, because I used to be much more focused on like narrative painting. I was obsessed with Renaissance painting and 19th century painting. And, I thought, I have to be thinking about these narratives. And there was kind of a time between like 2010 to like, I don't know, maybe 2016, where I was just like really painting all these narrative paintings. And I love the symbolists, and I loved that stage of my life as an artist, but I was overthinking it all the time. And I didn't have this like fresh relationship with my work, because I was always overanalyzing and overthinking, and everything had to have a meaning. Everything had to have symbols. But he just kind of taught me that you can just have this childlike appreciation for what's right in front of you. And I just love the way he moves through the world. And it's so easy and so joyful. And so for me, I've been painting like things that I don't think I would really be painting. I'm doing a whole series of paintings of roses right now, and I think I would have been too uptight to paint that before, but, because, Kwong he just will, one day he's painting, a floral arrangement. The next day he's painting like he's got like 4 abstract paintings on his wall in his studio right now that he just did for fun, because he wanted to play with that. So, it's interesting to see that. And so he's really warmed me up to my own work, and has helped me to just have this more light relationship with my work. Nice. And with life in general. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's really lovely.
Thank you.
Thanks for answering that question.
Thanks for asking it. Yeah, as you guys know, you can't really separate your work from your personal life. Your art, as an artist, you're just influenced by everything that's happening around you, and your family life and your personal life, that all just really makes its way into your work.
Tenet wants to acknowledge our media sponsor, New Magazine. That's NUE. You can follow both the national and the Denver edition of New Magazine on Instagram. The national edition can be found at new_magazine, and the Denver edition at new_Denver_magazine. And I want to share with you something very exciting. Check out the newly launched New Denver Gallery Guide. Look for the signage that says New Denver Gallery Guide that has a QR code. Scan it with your phone, and you have instant access to a comprehensive digital guide to Denver's finest galleries and exhibitions. Find this QR code in your favorite gallery, hotel, or coffee shop as you visit and explore Denver. Thanks for listening.
I'm Adrienne Stein, and you're listening to the Tenet Podcast.
In reading some interviews with you, the genre of your work has been described as magical realism. Is that how you would describe it?
That is how I would describe it. Yes. I always love that element of the fact that, you sense that we're in our world, but there's something about it. Some people have described my work, or they'll say to me, "Oh yeah, I've seen your work before. You're a fantasy artist, right?" And I'm always kind of like, okay, I guess those words, I guess that could be used to describe my work, but I don't see myself as a fantasy artist really, because there's still like a strong element of realism and painting from life, and like all those influences are still in my work. So magical realism. I mean, I think there's an element of mystery. There's an element of fantasy for sure. But yeah, still also very much rooted in the real as well. I was thinking about like Neil Gaiman, who is the author who wrote American Gods, among other novels. I'm not that familiar with his work, but I do. I've read American Gods, and it's interesting because he's considered a magical realist as a novelist. In the literary world, he's a magical realist. So basically, like the premise of the book is like all these old Norse gods are alive and well and like living among humans in America, in modern day America. So, you have this like sense of, the immortal and history, and there's all these fantasy things brought into it that these people can do, but then it's just happening in some banal location. And I like that kind of play, or like Pan's Labyrinth really made an impression on me, the Guillermo del Toro Pan's Labyrinth, and the fact that it's like happening during, I think, Francoist Spain maybe is when that takes place. And but you're also, so you've got this dictatorship and this household and this family, and there's all this tension, and then you switch between that and the little girl's fantasy world, and you don't know which one is more real. And before you know it, the girl's fantasy world becomes the real world to you. And so I love that sort of play between, like, you feel like you're in another world.
Have you always been drawn to mythology and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think so. I'm no expert on mythology. I mean, I have like a basic knowledge, but I was always really drawn to, because I started painting young, and I started looking at paintings really young. I was always drawn to artists who painted mythology. So the Pre-Raphaelites are a perfect example, just always like very, very drawn to Waterhouse, and like, because I loved the painting, The Lady of Shalott, I was curious about the poem and that it comes from, and, Tennyson. And it's sort of like by studying these paintings, it sort of leads you to some of that mythology. But I'm not as literate a person as I want to be. I do enjoy audiobooks, but it just, all my time is either like painting or parenting, or just being with friends or family. So I don't have a lot of reading time, but yeah, that kind of reminds me I need to start delving back into some of the classical myths. I need to brush up. Yeah.
It's difficult when you have, young children, and, you're married, and you got your other family member, members that you like to hang out with, your parents, siblings, whatever. I mean, there's only so much time in the day, and you get work done, and then you have regular, normal, like daily chores that, just don't magically happen. You got to do it, washing dishes and loading the dishwasher.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Like keeping your house clean on a basic level is just hard. I mean, and one of my keynotes for 2023 is relationships. Like, I just really want to invest in the friendships that we have. And, we have some wonderful friends and we always try to make time for friends, but I feel like I could just be much better about cooking for people. Kwong and I love cooking. And, we love having people over, making dinner for people. And, this past year, because it was so busy, there were plenty of times when, I wanted to, but I just couldn't do it because I had too many deadlines and not enough nanny hours. So it's like, you've got this amount of time to finish this amount of things, and then something's got to give. So of course it's your friends, your social life. And, so yeah, this year I really want to create wonderful memories with friends and really just focus on that. And, there's on Instagram, I love following travel blogs, and I don't know about you guys, but you know how it is. You have your families and you have your work, and you get into a work rut and a routine, and there's nothing wrong with it. That's just how life functions and how you get things done. But, you just forget that there's a whole big, beautiful world out there. And I just love following travel blogs because it's like, oh, there's a photo of a town in Greece that I've never seen, and it's gorgeous. Wow, there's a Byzantine church there. Oh my gosh, that'd be so inspiring. I want to see that place and eat that food. It's like just knowing that place exists and is out there. I love traveling, and I want to do more of that. And it's like, you know how it is. There just aren't enough hours in the day.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy to push aside those things and lose track, right? And that's
right.
been one of my things for this 2023. I told my wife, I'm like, it's more about the experience from here on out,
Yeah.
And
Beautiful.
I just want to, spend as much time with her and go places and see things, because you just don't know what happens in life, I mean, not to be morbid or anything like that, but I've seen plenty of people, work their butts off their entire lives to, want to retire at a certain age, which I don't understand the whole retirement thing. We actually just had this conversation with Barbara Van Cleve, the photographer that was.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, and waiting till in your latter years to go do this stuff, and
Right.
there's no time like the present, right?
That's
To experience
exactly
these
right.
things.
That's so true. My goodness. Yeah, that's right. I mean, you have to work, and most people, they just work themselves to the bone, and then they sacrifice their health. And then when they're finally, they're retired and they've got all kinds of health problems and they can't trek all over Europe. It's a shame. I think I mean, far be it from me to criticize American culture, but I mean, I do think that there's a big part of it is cultural,
Absolutely.
Where it's like you climb that corporate ladder, you get that next thing, you own the home, you do the thing. And why? Because that means something, and there's nothing wrong with any of those things. There's nothing wrong with career aspirations, but when you put it ahead of those rich life experiences, then you can.
What's the point, right?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Right. People die with regrets all the time.
Yeah, I don't want that.
Bad. Yeah, exactly. Can't take it with you.
No.
That's exactly right. You cannot take it with you. You can always make more money.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just money, man.
Yeah, that's right.
The things that you'll have that, at the end of your life, you'd like to think that you've made all these memories and that, those live on, not only at the end when you're thinking about all the wonderful things and times that you had, but with all those people that you experienced with, and that kind of, that carries on in the universe.
Yes, exactly. It does. Yeah, that's powerful. Those moments are what, those moments are what make it all worthwhile, aren't they? And then so many people, it's like, were you guys working from home or like self-employed when your kids were young?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the things that I really relished, because it gave me the flexibility and the ability to spend quality time with my kids. And I wouldn't trade that for the world,
Yeah. Right.
Other things kind of got pushed aside in some ways, but I don't regret that at all,
Yeah,
and now my kids are grown and I can do whatever I want. I have all this luxury and this latitude as far as, what I do with my time now, because, they're doing their own things in the world now.
Yeah,
but
that's right. Yeah.
you only got this small window, you know?
Yeah.
And I see, like I said, the pictures that you guys post on Instagram, and you're doing it right. Like,
Thank you.
you know, you get like this decade, this 10-year window where,
Right.
I mean, pretty soon Liam will be self-sufficient in a lot of ways, and you don't have to always be hands-on.
That's right.
And that's a change. But that 10 years until they get into their teens and then kind of start like wanting to do their own thing,
That's right.
that's a really important window. And people
Yes.
forget that all the time. And it used to drive me crazy because was engaged with my kids, and when I'd see parents that weren't engaged, that would just drive me out of my mind. Like, why do you even have kids? Why do you have kids?
I know. It's heartbreaking. You feel for those kids, and then they end up in therapy. Not that there's anything wrong with therapy, you know, but yeah, I mean, Wes was shaking his head no, that he was not home with his children, that he had to be working.
And then I was divorced. So, and then my daughter lived with me twice when she was like 6, and then when she was like 15.
Okay.
And those were wonderful times. But yeah, I didn't have the same experience that Todd did. Even when my daughter was living with me, you know, I was working the corporate world, you know, and then then my son lived with his mom and spent a large amount of time. So I've been married. My kids come from 2 different marriages. And my son, she was married, and I was in the Marine Corps. So then when I got divorced from her, she married another Marine, and they were overseas quite a bit. So he was in Okinawa, Japan. And then when he graduated from high school, he left all that and moved in with us, my current wife and I, and lived with us for a few years. But I think the 10 years that Todd's talking about has everything in that's so important about in development of that child. That I mean, it's a gamut anyway, because you can raise 3 kids and they can come out 3 different ways and have the same experiences. And you're like, what the heck, right?
Yeah.
Like a friend of mine, he's got 2 brothers. And my friend was a successful Marine Corps officer. And now he's a successful businessman. And his one other brother, they all grew up in Chicago, went to the same schools. His other brother was a Chicago. He's now a retired Chicago police officer. And then the third brother was in prison most of his adult life, you know, in and out of prison. But if you give that attention, like Todd has done with his family, what appears like you're doing with your family, I think it's, you know, you're hedging your bets to having a well-balanced, good person, you know?
Thank you. Yeah. I think that's well said.
Well, it wasn't well said, but it was said.
Yeah.
A stumbling said, but the sentiment is there.
I think that's absolutely true. I think there's no substitute for the time and attention, undivided attention that you give them. And that it's just tempting to want to turn on their favorite program when you're trying to get something done, or, you have a deadline coming up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I could just turn on his favorite show. And you go, but it's like really just sitting with him on the floor and building a puzzle instead. The effect of that, you can feel it. You can feel it on him cognitively. I can feel it in my connection with him. I can, it's like it's just every little bit makes a difference.
Yeah. My relationship with my kids is so much better now than when they were growing up. And my relationship with my grandkids, I don't know what they would say, but I have a wonderful relationship with them. And my youngest one was here this last weekend, and we spent a lot of time watching TV and snuggling, and she's 10.
Oh,
and
that's precious.
Yeah. So she stole her mom's phone to text me, and she said, "Can Nora come and spend the night this weekend?"
Oh my gosh. That's so cute.
And I didn't know that until I dropped her off on Sunday.
She initiated it?
Yeah. So she was an imposter of her mom asking to stay with grandpa for the weekend.
Yeah.
So, and of course I just said yes. And then when it's like, what time should I pick her up? Or then the gig was up.
I love that she impersonated her mom. That's really cute.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
Sneaky.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man.
What sweet times.
Yeah, it was a wonderful time, and we've done art together, and that was fun. And yeah, she has a great sense of humor. So I'm making up for it in my grandkids. My other 2 grandkids are in Arizona. My grandson is at that age where, he's 17 and he's doing his thing, and we don't talk as much and then my oldest granddaughter is 21 and we talk more. And then my youngest granddaughter, which is their youngest sister, is 1. And man, she's adorable.
Oh, that's so 1. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. That's such an exciting age. So much happening.
And they change so quickly. Like every week is like, is that the same girl?
Yeah.
But,
well,
she
that's
needs to grow some hair though.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's wonderful. So I'm like Todd. I really admire the fact that you are, spending the quality time that you need to, and that you have the opportunity, because not everybody has the opportunity that you and Quan have. And
thank you. Thank you very much. And I really do have to credit Kwang. I do really have just the most supportive husband. I mean, he's so gracious about everything. And when I have something big coming up, a big deadline, he knows it's hanging over me, and he'll just take Liam. He'll just take care of Liam. He'll just take the lead, and I'm so grateful for that. And not just that he can, but that he does, and he really loves just spending time with Liam. I mean, the two of them just have a really, really sweet bond. And it's wonderful. It's really wonderful to get to share that. And again, like it would be different if it was a different situation, a different person, but because we get to be artists, we get flexibility, and that really has made all the difference. So we get to distribute the tasks of parenthood.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But speaking of the tasks of parenthood,
is it that time?
Yeah. Well, I think Kwang probably put him to bed. It's about 10:45 here. Ooh. And Liam goes to bed really late. He's been going to bed around like 10:30, 11. So he's a late to bed, kind of like us.
He's going to be a night owl.
Well, it's funny that, that's the way my kids always were too. Like we weren't really structured, and didn't have like a set bedtime. And both of my kids are night owls. So it all jives.
Yep. That's the way I grew up too. I think that's good. I think you kind of let them just figure out what schedule works best for them. And it's kind of good for you too, because you don't have to, like rush home to get them in bed or to keep them on a schedule, or that's kind of how it goes.
I got a funny story.
Yes.
So I used to live near Todd. We lived in the same apartment complex, like a floor part of each other. And we'd play a lot of cards over at Todd and Barb's house, and Kyra was just a little thing. And we'd go, and my wife just reminded me of this weekend. But we would go over there and we'd be playing cards and be getting late, and Kyra would just be fighting it. You could tell she wanted to go to sleep, but she couldn't because there was too much activity going on, and she wanted to be a part of it. She would hum herself to stay awake so she could be a part of the party.
Oh, yeah. She was like the original girl to get FOMO.
Yeah. She was just humming away.
Oh my gosh, she didn't want to miss a thing.
No.
So cute.
Yeah, she's adorable. Still is.
Oh my gosh, that's precious. That's so cute. I just love that age where they're so social. They want to be around. Liam's the same way. He doesn't want to miss out on the party. If something's happening and we have people over, he will not go to bed. He won't let us put him to bed. He wants to be up with everybody in the action.
That's good. That's healthy for him.
So we let him, and it's so far so good. So
good. That'll change. Eventually he'll want to be his own guy.
Yeah, that's right. We're just cherishing the time that he wants to hang with us.
That's right.
He'll be a teenager soon enough, and he'll want to just deny that he's associated with us in any way. So
yeah,
it's true. So do we have a little bit more time that we can talk? Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. I just want to make sure that you didn't need to go.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Kwang is going to just take care of. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, cool. I want to talk about this whole atelier training.
Yeah.
And how important that was, because you've been painting for 25 years. You started when you were 1, right?
When I was 1, that's right. Born with a paintbrush.
No, but you started really young, and And was that the idea of yourself or your parents, recognizing that you had this interest and decided that you needed to have that foundation, or how did that all come about?
And
Yeah.
describe what that is too, because not everybody, including me, knows what that means.
Yeah, sure. Well, in the painting world, atelier training is just any kind of like small studio where you're getting a classical training. So it's not an accredited program. It's something that's kind of similar to or modeled on the Renaissance guild system. So there's usually like, a mentor, you're learning the craft. And nowadays ateliers are like, they're kind of structured so that they're 4-year programs sometimes, but in a lot of cases it's just a very close instruction in a setting where you're learning how to draw and paint from life. You're learning these fundamentals. So, I've been drawing and painting ever since I can remember. And it was really the only thing that I can remember from my earliest memories really sustained my attention and focus. And I loved it. It lit me up. And so, and it was really the only thing also that I had a natural aptitude for and a lot of focus. And so my parents recognized it from the time I was really young. Actually, my preschool teacher took my parents aside and mentioned it to them, and they showed my parents my drawings, and then they showed them the other kids' drawings in the class. They said, here's the other kids' drawings and here's your daughter's drawings. I think you should encourage her to maybe get lessons or, pursue it. And so, really, I started studying with my mentor. I had been taking classes since I was like 8 or 9 with various local teachers, but then I started with my main mentor when I was 11. So he taught me how to oil paint. So he had a small studio in southern Pennsylvania, and his name was Richard House. He didn't have a gallery career per se, but he was, he was a very, very talented teacher, and he was educated in an atelier, the Schuler School of Fine Art in Baltimore. So he taught me kind of indirect paint. So, he taught me how to draw from life. And so I actually I wasn't even allowed to paint for the first year. I had to draw for the entire first year. So it's a very rigorous program of learning how to draw exactly what you see. It gave me so much discipline too, because from the time I was 11, I was in my mentor's studio looking at art books of, he had this whole library of art books. So we'd look at the works of the old masters, and he taught me direct painting as well as indirect painting. He taught me glazing. So these are all like classical painting techniques or, things that you would learn in an atelier. And then I had to do master copies my first year. So that was another thing, is like you select a painting, and a master copy is just a really awesome way to learn an artist's strategy. It's a way of getting inside their head, is to copy their work. And so you kind of just try to figure out what they did by just copying, and you can learn so much from it. It's really amazing. But I had a training like that from the time I was young. So before I was even a teenager, I had some really solid skills that I had really cultivated. And so, at this time I was also, I went to a public high school, and, my mom is an interior designer and my dad is in sales, actually. So, I don't come from a family of artists, but my mom is extremely artistically talented and creative. And she was always, my biggest support and a huge inspiration for me too, visually. And she also paints now too. So she had her interior design business for 25 years. And so, I was really encouraged by my parents, really just encouraged and supported my pursuit from the time I was a child, really. And I also started working professionally as an artist before I was even a teenager too. I think I took on my first portrait commission when I was 11. And it was a graphite drawing, and it was like, I started doing them, and then it was like just word of mouth, I didn't have a website or anything at that point, but then just locally, I started showing locally in local venues. My very first art show was the Borders Books and Music. Remember Borders Bookstore?
Yeah.
In my hometown. And because I was 11 at the time, it was my very first show. I think that's what sort of drew people to my work, because I was young when I started. And from the time I was young, I was learning kind of how to also be a professional artist and how to paint for shows, because I started showing my work and I started having a show pretty much every year, or I was a part of another group show or, something like that. So even though I was in school, and again, I went to a public high school, but so I wasn't at any kind of a special arts school, but so I was running my art career on the side, essentially. I was coming home and doing my homework, and I was never an awesome student, but I did as well as I possibly could have. I had to work hard to get good grades, but I as soon as my homework was done, I would just stay up and paint. That's part of why I was such a night owl, is that I would, on school nights, every night my studio was in my bedroom and I would stay up late and paint. And so my life was really centered on art from the time I was a child. And so, by the time I graduated from high school, I knew that I was already headed on that path, and I knew that I wanted to go to Laguna College of Art and Design. And I knew that that was the kind of training that I wanted to pursue because, like I had mentioned earlier, they are really have a lot of classical principles in their school. They still do. I graduated 15 years ago, which is kind of hard to imagine, but it just was, it was amazing. I moved from a relatively smaller town in Pennsylvania to Laguna Beach, California when I was 18, and did that Bachelor's of Fine Art program. So I graduated with my BFA in 2007. And then I moved to New York for a little while to study Art Students League of New York with Frank Mason. And then, I moved back home for a little while because I was trying to figure out my next move, and I was saving up some money because I wanted to go to graduate school. And then in 2011, I ended up going to Boston University for graduate school. So I moved to Boston, and I got my MFA from Boston University. And that's kind of the experience I was talking about earlier, where up until that point, I had really been studying at institutions where it was, we were all looking at the same artists. We're really looking at the old masters kind of painting in a classical style, really kind of as a realist. And then the artist who ran the program at Boston University is an abstract expressionist painter. So really the values of the school were more geared towards that. And I knew that going into it, which is why I chose that program, because I wanted to pick something that would kind of challenge me. And, I thought, well, this will be a new and interesting experience. And I just kind of wanted to also have a master's also because I thought that I might want to teach on the college level someday. And I thought, well, if I do, then a master's is a must. So I did that for 2 years. And as I kind of alluded to earlier, it was really challenging personally and artistically. And then when I graduated, I moved back to Pennsylvania, and I had been living in cities and traveling around so much. And I was ready to just live in a place that felt peaceful to me and affordable. When I moved back to the town of Wrightsville, Pennsylvania, where I lived for years before I met Kwong, I was renting the first floor of this historic house, and my studio was in the back of the house, and it was a beautiful space, and it was huge, and full of light and beautiful wood floors and all utilities included. It was so cheap. And, I was right on the river, on the Susquehanna River. And it was a wonderful chapter. I mean, I loved it. And I was working with a gallery at the time. Right out of grad school, I got picked up by a gallery, RJD Gallery, which was then in Sag Harbor, New York, is now in Romeo, Michigan. And I started producing work for them right away. They started selling my work. It was an exclusive contractual agreement, so I was working with him exclusively. But then, eventually our contract ran out, and it came time to consider the contract again. And I thought, I was kind of starting to consider the idea of showing other places. And Kwong and I were together at that point, and Kwong is one of the curators at 1261 and has been affiliated with that gallery for a long time. And I knew I had known, the owners of 1261, and I sort of I had known that gallery, so I started showing there and a couple other places. So that was kind of my journey, my professional journey in a nutshell, and my educational journey. It was kind of one thing sort of led to the next. And before, it was. I'm really grateful for where I am right now, because where I show, it used to be like when I was showing with RJD Gallery, they really just wanted the figurative work. They really just wanted the figurative work in the style that I'm kind of consistently known for, which is, kind of a tighter realism with bright color and very detailed, lush paintings. And I enjoyed doing those paintings and those narrative paintings and the body of work that I did for them. But they really, really had a particular look I felt that they wanted, and I felt like it was very specific what they were after. And so I explored all I could explore with that, and then and now I'm doing a much more diverse array of work, and it feels really good to me.
I got a question about your master's program. What was your focus on your MFA your MFA?
Painting.
Okay. Mm-hmm. They just have a broad, I got my master's, but you come up with your thesis and all that kind of stuff. So it's just painting as a broad.
Yeah. You can do painting, printmaking, or drawing. I don't think you can get an MFA in drawing from there. I think it's really just paint. You just get an MFA generally, but, when you're there, I mean, you don't have to write a thesis paper. There's no thesis. You're just painting.
Right. Yeah.
So, you're just creating the work. And then the thesis show is basically, the gallery at the college, they have everyone's work just hanging in grouped by the person. So you get to see each person's body of work. And then in the final critique, they get a bunch of guest critics to come in from New York, and then all the faculty at the school. So they have some guest artists, guest faculty, as well as the faculty from the school. And they all dogpile you with all their criticisms. So it's a good experience. I mean, it is not for the faint of heart, but it's definitely helpful to get other people's interpretation of your work. And I mean, some of the critiques of my work are things that I still think about today and that I've been really working on, so that is, that's very valuable, even as damaging as I kind of claimed that it was, which, it was hard on my psyche in that way, but it really gave me the gift of seeing my work through a more critical lens.
And if you were to do it over again, would you still go to the same college, or would you pick one that was more in line with what you were traditionally doing?
I don't know. I've often asked myself that question. I think I would have done the same program in Boston. I think I would have, because at that time, I think I just needed to break out of because the world of realism is a bubble. Like I was mentioning the word atelier, and I kind of just assume everyone knows what that means. But yeah, it's like a very specific part of the art community and the realist art world. And so within that, like Kwong and I are in that art world. We're oil painters, so it's a niche, and like we all know the same people, and we're all kind of in that world of painting, American painters, and it like we speak a certain language. And when I got to graduate school, I felt like every critique, it was like me, Tarzan, you, Jane, like I could tell that I was just like speaking a language that everyone was like, huh? What? Like it was just very funny. And I wasn't used to, everyone kind of like in the beginning, everyone gives a slideshow on their favorite artists and the artists that inspire them. And I was talking about like Jean-Léon Gérôme and like all these Evelyn de Morgan, all these like British Pre-Raphaelite artists and like then everyone else was talking about Philip Guston and, de Kooning and like David Park and like Diebenkorn and all these artists. And I was like, wow, these artists are not in my lexicon. Like I love these artists' work. When I go to museums, I go to the contemporary art wing, but I don't consider those artists like formative in my work. That's like not what shaped me. And because I started painting and looking at art when I was a kid, those influences that I have are hardwired into me. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. You just don't really think about it. And people, it was funny. Like I was the one person in that program who just had a completely different background, a completely different set of artistic values, a completely different training. I mean, and it was so good for me because it really helps, when you think, when I was growing up, like I worshiped Bouguereau and my mentor loved Bouguereau, and I still am in awe of Bouguereau, as we all are. But, my mentor or not my mentor, but one of my teachers in graduate school was kind of talking about just how artists of that kind of like French Academy, artists in that era tended to kind of paint everything like the figure was in front of a pull down screen almost, where the background kind of felt flat, and the background was really treated almost like he would say the background was treated as decoration. Whereas, it didn't feel like the figure was really integrated in that environment in a convincing way. It was like the figure and then the background space. And I was kind of doing that, it was like the figure could have been like a cardboard cutout, like in front of a flat space. Like I really wanted to get that feeling of like the light and the integration and like it putting different sources together and making it feel more convincing and vibrant and real. So, yeah, that to me was a big revelation about space, like creating space in a painting and creating the world of the painting that's convincing. Because I was kind of just, I was getting by with what I was comfortable doing. And I mean, the cool thing about graduate school was the assignments and the accountability. Again, like we were talking about accountability. And it was so good because one of the assignments, like we'd have a different assignment every week. And one of our professors, she would say, okay, between now and next week, you have to do 5 paintings. It doesn't matter what subject matter. It doesn't matter what size. 5 paintings. And we're going to talk about them. And I was like, I have never done 5 paintings in a week. That is crazy. How on earth, like, what do they even mean? What am I going to do? But you do your best. You think like, how do I do 5 paintings in a week? So, you just kind of like learn what you're capable of. And because it was really amazing because I couldn't second guess myself, I fritter away so much time just trying to decide, what to paint next, how to compose it, what to include, what not to include, that I end up overthinking it. But because I have the time, but when you don't have the time, like what would you do if you just kind of knee-jerk reaction, paint a painting, like you're attracted to something, you want to paint it, or you want to paint something out of your imagination or whatever. It just allowed me to be more impulsive as an artist. And that was so good. I would say like that is an experience every artist should have. It's just like living, and also just like living in close proximity with other artists, with a whole community was really cool too, because it was a building, and it was a whole floor of a building that were all portioned off as studios for all the MFA students. So we're all there all day, every day, and we're having conversations in each other's studios. And I mean, that is an amazing, amazing experience to have access to that kind of environment.
So did you ever think when you were looking at these people that were more into contemporary, like, wow, their stuff's just such horseshit? Because that's what I would have thought, because I come from a more...
it was like I admired some aspects of it. Like I really admired, the imaginative aspect of it, the kind of like, yeah, I mean, there were some contemporary artists that I was like, wow, that's truly interesting. And then there's some of it where I'm like, wow, I don't understand why people idolize this person. Like everybody kind of loved Peter Doig, the artist Peter Doig. I mean, I don't mean to talk badly about contemporary artists, but yeah, I've never seen one of his paintings that I thought felt worth my time to look at. They're not rigorous. They're not, but like one of my favorite artists is Anselm Kiefer. I love Kiefer's paintings. I mean, they're full of, gravitas and pathos, and heaviness, and they just like weigh on your psyche. I mean, they're incredible works of art. But, I can't get behind every giant abstract painting. Adrienne Stein is another one that I love. He's, very, really fascinating contemporary artist. So is Neo Rausch. Dana Schutz is another one that everyone loved, and I just didn't like her. I didn't like her work at all. I mean, I can kind of see why people love her work, but it's kind of like cartoon Picasso. I mean, to me, they're just kind of look like giant cartoons. I'm not into them. I just don't understand why they got as big as they did. But I mean, it's just personal taste. Like everyone else in my program thought that she was a god of painting, and I didn't see it. So I guess it was like hit or miss. I felt like, yeah, I can get into this and I can learn from a lot of these artists, but some of it I just don't see the merit. But again, I didn't want to be stuck in classical art land. I didn't want to be pigeonholed into it. Like I didn't want to be stuck in that bubble where it was just my only influence.
Yeah. No, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I would have been in the same boat if I came from the training. Well, when I did art history, and I won't bore you with the story, but there's things you look and you're just like, I don't get it, and I don't see the appeal, and I think this is horseshit. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can call it like it is when you see it.
So, but that's from an uneducated eye. So I was just curious because I would have been in the boat where I'm like, look at my stuff, and then look at yours. I don't get you. So anyway, you should learn to paint like this. But then you'd just be a pompous ass and nobody would like you.
Exactly. Yeah, I was like, okay, I'm just going to humble myself here. I'm just going to kind of subject myself to whatever is trying to be taught, is whatever I'm being taught here, and just make the most of this experience. And yeah, I came away with things, and other things I was just not on board with.
Well, I think you were smart. I think challenging yourself is always a good thing. And you're bright enough to know that, like, I can learn from these people. I might not really appreciate everything, but there's things I can take to, I can learn from and take advantage of. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. I think that kind of just goes for everything in life. Just kind of opening yourself up to experiences like that, opening yourself up to a paradigm shift. I'm all about that. And I think, our world would be a better place in general if each of us did that. I mean, if we questioned our assumptions, if we walked over to the other side of the fence and kind of got their perspective. And and that was a very valuable experience for me because it was really on the opposite end of the spectrum from what I was used to. And so, I opened myself up to it. It was hard, and it was hard in a good way. But again, like, it's so funny. I was 25 at the time when I entered that program. And I think about that, and I just think, wow, I was so adventurous back then, and just pick up and move to a new city where I didn't know a single person and enter a new program and just, learn new stuff. I mean, the other cool thing about graduate school is that, when you're not in an art school, you can take classes, electives in all the other departments. So like one of my favorite experiences, hands down, in graduate school was I took a poetry workshop. And it was so awesome because I always kind of secretly, I wrote poetry as just a private creative practice for myself. And I didn't know anything about poetry. I had a couple poets that I liked, but I really just did it for myself to process things I was feeling. And I never shared my poetry with anyone, and I never read it in front of anyone. And then I had the opportunity to take a poetry workshop in graduate school, and it was amazing. I mean, it was like, you read a poem every day, you analyze it, you talk about it, and then you get an assignment for the week and you write a poem, and then you workshop it with all your classmates. And, I'm amazed at some of the beautiful things that, all of your fellow poets in the class share, about their life. You learn about their lives and their experiences. And and, so I got to really work on some of the poems that I had written on my own and really hone the craft. And it really made me a better artist too, because it made me more attentive to those things. And, because poetry is a form, just like painting, just like photography. And it was just awesome. I mean, I just remember loving doing my assignments for that class. And, I took a seminar class on Michelangelo. I mean, that was incredible. Just like, it was like a brushing up on the entire Italian Renaissance, and is totally fascinating. And, taught by this scholar, this like renowned scholar. I mean, it was so cool to have access to all of that. And I am so grateful that I had that. It was a unique experience.
So I have a question for you. Obviously, you had something going on from a very young age, and it's phenomenal that a teacher recognized this, when you were in preschool.
Yeah.
And looking at your painting, do you have synesthesia?
Oh, that's really funny. I wouldn't say that I literally do, because, yeah, I mean, I would say like I do make a lot of allusions to music, like allusions with ALLUSIONS. I mean, I would say that when I'm thinking about a painting, like, for example, we were talking about the Demeter painting, and I'm thinking about like the scale of things. Like I want big flowers, and I want small flowers, and I don't want all the flowers to be the same size. And, I want, so I always kind of think of it in terms of like, I always just kind of like hear an orchestra, like here's the timpani drum, here's the piccolo, here's the flutes, here's the strings. Like I always kind of think about like, oh, this is a big, deep sound, and this is like a little, like a bright, high pitched sound. And, you want all those sounds in your painting, so to speak. And yeah, I wouldn't say I have any of those like actual connections.
Okay.
Yeah. I think about it intellectually, but I wouldn't say that it's like this immediate connection to music or smell or taste or any of that.
Okay. So it's not synesthesia as in like when you hear music, you see color or.
Right.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I was just curious because of such, your compositions and the palette that you use and how vibrant. And I was just curious if that was a thing or not. I want to talk about another piece.
I want to ask you a question, Todd, because you've brought this up. This is, I think, the second time you brought this up, maybe the third. I think it's the second. Do you have it?
I do not, no.
Oh, okay, just checking. I thought maybe you were
on track playing in my head all the time, but no.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have it either.
I don't. I think it'd be interesting. Mark Zimmerman has it. And, he discussed on the podcast where, he would be listening to a symphony and he would be feeling the colors, which I think is extraordinary. I can't imagine what that must be like.
This must be the third time we've talked about it, because I know you mentioned it early on too. And I'd heard of it, but I like when you threw the phrase out there, I was like, what is that? And then once you started explaining it, I was like, oh, totally see that. Because people do play music by color. They actually see color or.
Right. Yeah. That's from what I understand. It's like hearing music and seeing a color, like really visualizing it.
Yeah. But it's just one of those terms I don't hear every day. So when he throws it out there, I'm like, oh, we're going to talk about this again. This is interesting. Yeah. So I was just curious if you had it, because I don't think I've ever asked.
The only other person that I personally know who has it is the painter Pamela Wilson. She's a California, Santa Barbara based artist. She used to show at the gallery where I used to show at RJD Gallery. But she claims to have synesthesia. So it's very interesting.
Yeah. Be an interesting world to live in, right?
I know.
So I love music.
Oh yeah.
I love this piece. And I'm always drawn to kind of a dark scenarios or whatever, but this piece is just it's called Harvest Moon. It's an older piece of yours, about 10 years old or so.
Yes.
And I love this piece. Talk a little bit about this.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, wow, this is a blast from the past. I love that you guys are bringing back all these paintings that I had forgotten. And is this from my website? Are you on my website?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
this is on
Okay,
your
I wasn't
website.
even sure if I had it on there because it was an older painting, but I actually did this one while I was in graduate school. And this is funny because I don't think you can really tell from the image here, but the sunflowers, so the dead sunflowers, I actually like used dirt. Like I took dirt and mixed it with the paint and like packed it onto the canvas, like its texture. I wanted to do a painting where I incorporated drawing, painting, and sculpture. It sounds weird, but the lace is actually drawn on with pastel, and the sunflowers are actually like packed on with ground up dried paint and earth actually. So it was a fun painting to do because it is incredibly textural. But it's called Heart. It's actually another painting of my sister. So it's the same model as the other painting that you showed with the American Gothic church. I just kind of had this vision of her with all of these like dead. I had driven past a field of dead sunflowers when I was home visiting my parents. And I remember there's this Jamie Wyeth painting. Have you ever seen that Jamie Wyeth? Well, anyway, it's kind of lesser known, but it's a Jamie Wyeth painting where there's a mother and her child, and they're walking through a field with dead sunflowers. And the dead sunflowers, like they're really ominous looking because their heads are tilted down, big heavy heads, and they're kind of looming, and the leaves are all gnarled, and so they just kind of look like these eerie aliens, kind of. And so I just had this idea to do a portrait of my sister, like an icon, but like all of these dead sunflowers are kind of magnetically, like just kind of like magnetically attracted to her in a way. So yeah, I mean, it was like I wanted to do a painting of those sunflowers, and I love dead sunflowers. I think they look much more beautiful dead than alive. I mean, the forms just become so interesting. And so I want to do another painting with dead sunflowers, just a big tall painting of dead sunflowers against a bright sky. But yeah, this was just a really fun painting to do. And I know I have close-up photos of it somewhere where I took photos from the side so you can see all the built up crusty texture on those sunflowers.
I love it. Yeah,
Thank you.
It's extraordinary.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You have gallery representation. Was that you having to make those connections, or were you fortunate enough that people saw your work and they reached out to you and said, "Hey, we would really like to represent you"?
Yeah, it has pretty much happened that way. And I mean, when I was showing an RGD gallery, I mean, it's kind of funny because it's just one chain reaction after another, because I had shown a lot locally before I went to art school, and then after art school I was still showing work locally. And because I had been painting for a long time, I had a number of collectors who were commissioning and buying work directly from my studio. So I had that. I always had collectors who would come straight to me, but then I was always seeking gallery representation. So I was a part of a group show called Women Painting Women down in Charleston, South Carolina at RLS Gallery. And there's a collector down there who saw my work there, and he and his wife had bought a couple of my paintings, and he had also been buying paintings from RJD Gallery. And after I had gotten to know this collector for a couple of years, he mentioned my work. He showed my work to RJD, and RJD reached out to me, and that was a gallery that I had always wanted to show in. I mean, I was amazed because I thought that I was going to have to, approach them myself at some point when I got up the courage and put together a body of work and somehow found a way, or maybe apply to be a part of a group show. But this collector really, really did me a favor, and he, shared my work with this gallerist, and the gallerist pretty much reached out to me right away to see if I'd be interested in showing there. And I did. And he said, well, I showed him some of the paintings that I already had. And I sent them to him and he sold them right away. So it started going well. I mean, that was kind of how it worked. And then, by that point I was like, I had been painting and showing work for a long time. So the more you're out there in that world, you get seen more. And then, you get invited to do more group shows. And the more group shows you do, those galleries, if they like or sell your work, they invite you to be a part of more shows. And so, I've had the opportunity to show a couple different places, and, Catherine Turner Fine Art in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and also, American Legacy Fine Art in Pasadena, California, and some of the galleries that show realism. And I've done a group show, participated in a group show at Arcadia last year in New York. But mostly now I just work with Gallery 1261 because my production rate is slow. It's been amazing working with that gallery. They truly have sold a variety of different works of mine. They truly sell a diverse array of work. They don't just try to ask for one consistent thing from me. Their philosophy is like, if you're proud of it, if it's good, we have collectors for it, So it's been wonderful working with them. I love them. And pretty much I can't really work with any other galleries at this point because I have all I can keep up with. I'm as I said, I'm a slow poke. And I know that with the current obligations I have, and I also take on portrait commissions on the side. So I always have one or two portrait commissions going on at any given time. It's that, and then providing new work for Gallery 1261 keeps me busy right now.
Sounds like a great situation to be in.
It's wonderful. It's been a long road to get here. But yes, it's great. And I woke up the other morning and I got up and I got ready and I was getting Liam ready, and I was, Kwong and I were talking and we were getting ready for the day. And I just thought to myself, I can't believe I'm here. Like, I can't believe I'm in a position where really, for the most part, I get to paint what I want. And I know that I have, an avenue through which to show it. And I'm so grateful for that. I mean, it just has been a long time because I'd showed in a lot of different galleries, but it always worked out for a while, but it was never a long-term thing. And, you try different galleries, you have different experiences. Sometimes you have a, not so good experience, or someone's not quite so honest with you or whatever. And so I've had a variety of experiences, but it feels really good now just to kind of be settled for now. The only thing I wish I had was a faster brush. Yeah.
So do you sell most of your work through Gallery 1261? Is that where most of your sales come from, through the gallery?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And honestly, sometimes people do reach out to me through, Facebook, or I also have just local, I still have my local collectors who are, a lot of them have just become close friends because we've known each other for so long. I mean, it really, I'm fortunate that I have a variety of collectors here locally that would buy just straight out of my studio, and also through 1261. So I'd say it's a mixture of both. But yeah, lately it's just 1261 has been selling my work. And then I work with Windows to the Divine as well, which is the nonprofit organization that benefits the Dominican order in Denver. So they do a lot of work with the homeless, and they do a ton of really amazing things in the city. But my friend Shannon Robinson is a curator and an art collector. She's a former attorney, and but she's just really passionate about art and artists. And so she started this nonprofit, and she curates shows, all over the country, and under the Windows to the Divine headline. And so she's doing another one it's going to be in Colorado, and at Gallery 1261 in Denver in October. And so, yeah, I mean, she's sold my work over the last 2 years. And so it's kind of a variety of things these days, I'd say. I know I mentioned that Kwong and I have this show coming up in September, which is at the Ladue Topiary Gardens. And that's like a whole new audience for us. A whole new area and, a whole new subject matter. So that should be interesting too. So like I said, it's kind of a diverse array of outlets.
And what percentage of your work is commission work, would you say?
These days, I would say it is about 25%.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because sometimes they're large commissions and they occupy like a pretty big amount of my time.
Sure. On your website, you have under your news, I saw that you have this commission. Is this something you're still working on, or is this something that's finished now?
No, that is finished now. So that in the photo is a work in progress, but that painting is now finished. And that's for an interesting Colorado project. So the Anschutz Medical Campus in Aurora. So they are building this huge hotel on their campus called the Benson. And it is for the families of those who are being treated long-term in the hospital and also for visiting doctors and things like that. They're building this hotel and Denver has this, you can correct me if I'm not right on the details, but Denver has this law now that developers have to legally are required to spend 1% of their budget on commissioning original art for their space.
Wow, that's awesome.
I don't know if you knew about that, but yeah.
I didn't.
So it is, it's pretty awesome. And the budget for this hotel must be astronomical because they've got 60 artists, I believe, who are creating large scale works for this hotel.
That is really spectacular.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's really a wonderful honor. And, our friend Willie Matthews, who is a really great Denver artist, was also in the Coors show, hanging right next to me. He's really a wonderful person and artist, and he was kind of recruited to help curate it and select some artists for it. So so Kwong and I were included in that group of artists, and so Kwong and I actually both did. That's a 5-foot by 5-foot painting, and Kwong did a 5-foot by 5-foot painting. And our paintings are going to be hanging across from each other in a big room. So, nice. I believe it's one of the big dining rooms that's in there. So, I've already finished and delivered this. We were in Denver in January and we hand delivered it. So, it's going to be framed next month and delivered and installed, I believe, like March. I think they're shooting for March. So, so it'll be really cool. And I think once the whole collection is done and put together, I think it's going to be phenomenal because they chose some really wonderful Denver artists. And, like Willie told us, that is going to be like a museum. Like he said, we want to do a guided tour of it, but it's going to be like hours. It's a big hotel and there's a lot of art in it. So it should be great. And, I love that. I worked with this gallery that was based in Buenos Aires, Argentina for a while. And I never sent work there physically. They're art dealers and they have a storefront in Buenos Aires, but they just represent me. Basically, they have JPEGs of my work that they show to clients. And so they've sold a number of my paintings over the years. I no longer work with them, but they sold to some clients who sell to like boutique. So they would sell to like boutique hotels. There's some of my paintings that are in boutique hotels in St. Augustine, Florida, as well as in North Carolina. I can't remember exactly where, but it's in a resort there that they do. This couple that owns all these resorts, they put all original art in them, and it's amazing. There's one in Savannah, Georgia. But yeah, I mean, it's so cool. I love this idea of art in hotels because I'm not at the point yet where my work would be selected to be in a museum, but I mean, I love the idea of my work not just going into some private home where only a small group of, like a family and their friends would see. I mean, that's wonderful too. But I love the idea of it being in a public space where, people get to see it, like a large group of a cross section of society gets to see it. And like, not everyone feels comfortable going to a gallery or a museum, but it's just really cool that, people who would go to this hotel would get to see all this great art. And so, yeah, I love that. I would love to have my paintings placed in more hotels. And as a matter of fact, it's going to sound really funny of me, but I don't mean it ironically at all. But Kwong and I went for the first time. We went to Las Vegas last summer. We took our son. We were on a road trip to California from Denver, and we decided to stop in Las Vegas. And we had the best time. I mean, neither of us set foot in the casino at all. We're not gamblers or anything, but just the art and decor. I mean, I grew up with this perception of Las Vegas being this kind of seedy underbelly of America, and that it was just, gambling and strippers and everything. But the truth is, now, I mean, some of the Aria and the Wynn and the Encore and like all of these casinos, these like kind of newer casinos, have beautiful art collections, like really wonderful and contemporary art, and just really, I mean, and really interesting decor. And I was just like a feast for the eyes. It was beautiful. It was really, really fun. I had a great time. And they have like there's a whole gallery where the Cirque du Soleil is. I guess it's Bellagio. I can't remember what casino hosts the Cirque du Soleil, but they have the sculptor, Richard McDonald. He's got like a whole body of work that he did of these Cirque du Soleil performers. And there's a whole gallery of it there. And I mean, some people would think that that is the corniest thing in the world, but I really enjoyed I loved Las Vegas. I just thought it was so cool. And I thought, oh man, I would love to have a painting in one of these Vegas casinos. I just think that would be so fun because it's seen by so many people. It's way more people than would see it in a museum. And, it doesn't like sometimes museums can kind of have that. People get this idea of like that museums are so haughty and cultural and they wouldn't necessarily go to see a show in a museum per se, but that they're in Las Vegas and they just get to see it. Just the general public can just walk in and see it. And it's so cool. I just love that art in public spaces like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I could see why you would, appreciate that and want to have as many eyes as you possibly can on your work, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to wrap this up. What are you looking forward to? You mentioned the show in the fall, but what are you looking forward to here in this new year of 2023?
Yeah. Well, I usually am a New Year's resolution setter. But this year, I decided, I kind of have some vague keynotes, but I decided not to set resolutions this year because I was really surprised, I'll say, surprised that last year, I kind of set my resolutions and then our son learned to walk. Then, I had all these resolutions because I had an infant and I got stuff done because he was sleeping all the time and immobile. So, he just kind of hung out there with me while I did my work. And so I quickly realized that a lot of the things that I had set out to do, I was not going to really have the time to do because having a toddler is just a whole new ball game. So I'm being very easy on myself this year because I know that all I can really handle is just meeting the deadlines that I already have. So one of the things that I was really hoping to do was I bought all this camera equipment because I wanted to film some instructional videos and I need to learn how to use it and I need to get a mic and everything. And I need to learn how to properly edit videos. I've done them before, but I decided not to really focus on that. I'm going to put that off a little bit later. This year I'm in a group show that's put on by Vanessa Roth. She has a gallery, in Laguna Beach, but she's a curator. So she's curating this show called Art in Fashion, where she invited a bunch of artists to paint anything related to fashion. So I'm doing a figurative painting for that. And, the kind of drapery that she has incorporated in her outfit is really like bold and colorful, and it's exciting, and it has kind of a garden. There's like a botanical element to it, and I just love the colors, and I just started this painting today, and I love where it's going. And so it's going to debut at the Salmagundi Club in New York City. So the Salmagundi Club hosts a lot of shows for realist artists today. I mean, it's like a little museum. It's a really cool, really wonderful space. And so I'm looking forward to that. And then I'm looking forward to this 2-person show with Kwong that I'm doing at the Ladue Topiary Gardens. They're hosting that show September 23rd, I believe it is. So I'm painting the garden. So I'm doing a whole bunch of paintings from photo references now. And then when the weather when things start to warm up here around April and May, I'm going to start going there to paint on site. So I'm going to do a whole bunch of plein air paintings there too. So I'm really looking forward to that, because I like to have a mix of, paintings done from photo references in the studio, and then also like painting on site to kind of get that to just, freshen up and keep my skills honed and keep everything sharp and really like absorb the atmosphere. So it's going to be a fun year. I'm really looking forward to it. And then in October is the show Through Windows to the Divine at Gallery 1261. And they have, I'm very, very grateful to say they've bestowed on me the honor of being the 2023 Fra Angelico Artist of the Year. So every year the Windows to the Divine chooses a different artist every year that is their artist of the year that they feature, and then they give you more space on the wall at the show, and they ask for more paintings, which is very exciting. But also I'm like starting to sweat, because even though it's not until October, I've still got a pretty full schedule until then. So yeah, I'm looking forward to finishing all these paintings for that, and just spending a lot of time in the studio, spending time with my family, and yeah, just trying to learn how to paint faster. Painting under the gun.
Oh. There you go.
What about the two of you? What projects do you have lined up for this year? What are you looking forward to in 2023?
I'm trying to figure out a new body of work that I want to, take on. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I have a new studio space that I just moved into.
I heard you say that on another podcast. So where is it?
I'm actually in a church in Lakewood, and I'm at the very top of the church.
Wow.
Which is where I'm recording from right now.
Oh, awesome.
And it's got high ceilings, and it's just nice to have a studio space. I had a little studio space last year, but it was more of a office suite, and the ceilings weren't very high.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited to be in this space. And there's a lot of other artists in this facility, in this church.
Wonderful.
And in fact, I think we're going to do like an open studio thing in April. So looking forward to that. And
you bring models in there into your studio, and you shoot mostly in your studio, or do you go out on location?
I'm mostly a location guy, but I'll tell you what, I when I do need a studio space, it's always such a hassle to rent, and it's just nice to have a place where equipment lives and I can create in a space,
Yes, exactly.
So I'm pretty happy to be here.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled for you. Well, welcome. Happy housewarming. Happy studio warming.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. It's very important to have a space that it's separate from your home, where you can go there and switch into that work mode and got all your gear that you need. And that's great.
The other thing is that I share office space now with my wife, which is fine. I don't mind her company, but I have to listen to the work scenario. Mm-hmm. And it's just nice to have my own space. Like pre-COVID, everybody left the house for the day. And so if I wasn't shooting, I could just edit in my own space.
Right.
But now there's always commotion. So I like being in my own scenario, as you can just like with you and Kwong, you have your separate studio spaces, and, you go there to do your work, and then you get to meet up later. And I love being with my wife, but at the same time, I need my own space to create in, right?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you truly do. It's that is sacred space.
And Wes, what are you looking forward to?
Well, I got not that we talked about this, but I got the We the People. I do a nonprofit that does civic education, so I'm working heavy on that, trying to get some teachers lined up to give them some civic education training that they can take to the classroom. So I have that.
Great.
And then evidently I'm going to be doing some figurative photography. So that's coming up in 2023. And
I love that you use the word evidently. It seems I'm being put up to it.
And I'm always looking for creative ideas to come up with an interesting body of work that goes beyond what I've been doing, because I've pretty much been pretty focused on, just because I love to be out in nature and I love chasing light, but maybe coming up with something a little different, maybe still nature related, but something completely different. So I'm hoping to kind of narrow that down within, and then, so then anyway, so
that's exciting. For where you live, being a landscape and wildlife photographer makes perfect sense, right? I mean, you've got a pretty epic landscape out there.
Yeah.
So.
Lots of buffalo, lots of bighorn sheep, and to be found. So,
wow.
But so it's and I have friends that are professional wildlife photographers, so that's always helpful because get to ride with them every now and then. But so we'll figure something out. So I'll have to see what this figurative thing
awesome.
entail. That's right.
That's awesome. And with the nonprofit work, is it really so that like school age, like kids in school can like learn a little bit more about, is it like a history, or like just basically like learning how laws work, or like?
Yeah, it's a constitutional based program that is basically, it's all three levels. So it's fourth through high school. We got a 3-year grant to focus on fourth grade through eighth grade. So elementary and middle school teachers, and it's constitutional based. And so it's pretty rigorous for the students. So I got 5 slots for this year, 5 slots, and then 5 slots for the next 2 years to fill. So So anyway, it's really rewarding watching the kids perform and get a good grasp of it. So it's really, my part is engaging teachers. So
okay, gotcha. Yeah. I was going to ask if you work directly with the kids or with the educators more. That's great.
More with the educators. Yep.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
Wow, it sounds like rewarding work.
Yeah. So I'm going to DC in April for the national We the People competition, and we'll see how that goes. So
awesome.
Yeah. So anyway,
good year
2023.
Ahead. Yeah.
Here we go.
It's a good year. And also enjoying time with your grandkids. You've got a whole tribe.
That's right.
My last question for you, Adrienne, before we let off for the evening is, do you have a mantra or a motto that you live by?
Well, at the risk of sounding repetitive, I just, it's a quote that I can't take credit for. It's Dolly Parton, Saint Dolly. But yeah, she said, find out who you are and do it on purpose. So for me, I've really been trying to live by that, really discovering who I am and really harnessing it, really doing it on purpose. I think that's a good adage for anyone.
So I got one last question too, and this will be short and sweet. Basquiat.
Yay or nay?
Yay or nay?
I wouldn't want to own one. Here's my whole thing about Basquiat and everyone of his ilk. I'm glad it exists because it has something to teach us about being childlike and like the subconscious and like working from that very immediate place. It's very rock and roll. That whole thing about, that you rock and roll, it isn't rock and roll if it isn't made in 5 minutes, and that whole thing where it just touches on something very primal for people. And it's just, they're fast and they're free associative, and they look like they could have been done by someone who's 10 years old, who knows? But, it's like, I appreciate that work, but I don't feel any connection to it.
There you go.
Doesn't touch me. And I say the same thing about Cezanne. Like, I am grateful for Cezanne's presence in art history. Okay. I realize what he did for abstract expressionism. I realize the doors he opened for other artists, art historically. I realize that he's like the father of abstract expressionism. Never seen one of his paintings that I liked. They don't give me pleasure. I don't look at them and I see he's breaking up space. I see he's doing new things. He's breaking the conventions for his time. Yes, I'm glad that he was alive and working at that time and did what he did, but I just don't like his work.
There you
it's
go.
Just personal taste.
There you go. See? And I think you just answered the first question.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so funny. I'm looking around at, at my bookshelf, and I have like Antonio Lopez Garcia book on my shelf, but it's also next to Frederick Lord Leighton and Salvador Dali, whom I love, and Tom Thompson, the landscape painter. And so I've got that kind of a variety here.
Wow.
It's hard for me to pick just one.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that. And I won't hold it to you for the rest of your life. You can always change your mind later.
Oh, good. So, thank you. I'll probably email you soon and be like, here's the person. This is the artist.
There you go. That was my last question. This has been an amazing experience. Thank you so much for sharing so much time and your knowledge and your journey. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Wes. Likewise, both of you, Todd and Wes, thank you so much for doing this podcast and for giving your time and really asking such good questions of all of your artists. And it's just great. It's a good service, really great service that you're doing for people. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrienne. It was wonderful to spend time with you and get to know you. And I found it very inspiring. So thank you for that.
Thank you. It means a lot.
Again, check out Adrienne's work on her website, adriennestein.com, and follow Adrienne on Instagram at Adrienne Stein. As usual, you can find out all this and more in this week's episode notes. For the Tenant Podcast, I'm Todd Pearson.
And I'm Wes Brown.
Have a great week.